morning. How are you fine people doing this morning? So good to see all of you. It is another day that we are here. Ah, yes, it is. It is a beautiful day, and you know, it's gonna get better. It's gonna get so much better because unlike you say that I can't, but clearly I can totally do it. Mm-hmm. Good morning, Sir Frank Otter. How you doing? Good morning, JW, Betsy. How are you doing, Brenda? Gosh, Betsy Weingartner, how are you doing? We got JD. We've got. Let's see if I'm missing anybody. If I miss anybody, I'm sorry. Keep looking. Other Claire, should I or shouldn't I? Probably not. Good morning, Debbie Webb. Beautiful day, beautiful day. My gosh, Elka, how are you doing today? Yes, it is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, you're wondering how I did that, huh? It's a good this morning. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Do we have some news for you today? If things get a little bit I can't. My keyboard was upside down when I was saying hi to you and hit C instead of S. I was pouring my coffee. There we go. Yes, it is. Yeah, we've got so much this morning. You know, if you guys were watching the news last night, it got a little crazy on the you could call it the TNC if that's what you want to call it. And one of the first things that I saw this morning, I guess this was yesterday that this came out, was Supreme Court rejects GOP push to block 41,000 Arizona voters, but partly okays proof of citizenship law. And I mean, you read this and you're like, that's a very confusing headline. I mean, if you read this, it is an extremely confusing headline. But what the truth of it is if you read what the headline should be, it should say the U.S. Supreme Court just voted to reinstate a provision from Arizona law that requires voter applicants to provide documentary proof of citizenship when getting registered to vote. That's what it should say, although it doesn't. Because, the truth would just be a little too much for them to understand. And that they don't want you to have. They don't want you to know what the truth is. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Christine. Washington, a divided Supreme Court. Oh, they're so divided. On Thursday, rejected a Republican push that could have blocked more than 41,000 Arizona voters from casting ballots for president. But wait, Arizona vote 41,000? 41,000, really? 41,000 votes. Now, doesn't it sort of go to show? Sort of goes to show this right here. This was the battleground state of Arizona. So if 41,000 votes would have been rejected, what does that say right there? 41,000 votes in Arizona should have been rejected. Where do you think those 11 electoral votes would have gone right there? Where does that put Biden? If 41,000 would have been rejected whenever they were supposed to, that would have left us with quite a few votes that one way or the other. Huh. It's amazing that whenever the Supreme Court upholds something, how it would have affected the last election. Give me just a sec. There we go. Now I feel more purple. If you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be voting to begin with. No, isn't that what is supposed to be happening? So this 5-4 order came after an emergency appeal filed by state and national Republicans. It sought to give full effect to voting measures that were enacted after Biden won the state. But it was supposed to be there the whole time. And it says the measures have drawn fierce support or opposition from voting rights advocates. Well, how would voting rights advocates be against something like that? Because to be afforded the rights in the United States, you have to be a citizen of the United States to be afforded those rights. Because with those rights comes a certain responsibility. A very important fact that they would like to leave out. It says the case should be one of multiple election disputes come before the High Court with a November election less than 90 days away. Clarence Thomas, Alito, Neil Gorsuch would have allowed the law to be fully enforced, but Justice Amy Coney Barrett would have joined with 3 courts liberals in fully rejecting the Bush order states. So why don't they show the order? So I'm looking here, and you would think that they would pull it up in this thing, but I'm not seeing anywhere that they have in their news story. Isn't that really odd? Trump applauded the High Court's decision, saying that they had great courage in doing what they're doing. The High Court's order allows the enforcement of restrictions that bar people from voting in state and local elections if they don't provide proof of citizenship when they register, while the legal fight continues in lower court. But it doesn't. That's the thing. This is where you're at. State voter registration forms submitted without documentary proof of citizenship will now be rejected by Arizona counties. People can still register to vote in presidential and congressional elections with a different federal form that requires people to swear they are citizens under penalty of perjury, but does not require proof. My concern is that the changes in the process should not occur this close to an election. Why? Why would you be arguing that? Wouldn't you want to make sure that every American vote is counted? Nobody's from another place not supposed to be able to vote? We respect the court's decision and will implement these changes while continuing to protect voter access and making the vote a simple process. Election law expert and professor at the University of California, which is not Arizona, wrote in a blog post, really? So now we're you don't like what people write in blog posts and you call it fake news, but yeah, just concerned. Proof of citizenship laws matter a lot. They stand to literally disenfranchise thousands of eligible voters for no good reason. Okay. Proponents say the measure is about eliminating opportunities for fraud. National and state Republicans have asked the Supreme Court to get involved in a legal fight over voter registration restriction laws that Republicans enacted in Arizona in 2022 following Biden's narrow, very narrow victory in 2020. Court's actions came after a lower court had blocked a requirement that called for state voter registration forms to be rejected if they are not accompanied by documents proving U.S. citizenship. A second measure would have prohibited voting in presidential elections by mail. Registrants do not prove they're U.S. citizens. How does this disfranchise anyone to require that they follow the law? Court, an appellate panel of three appointees initially blocked the lower court ruling in part and allowed enforcement of a provision dealing with state voter registration forms, but another appellate panel voted 2-1 to keep both provisions on hold, with two appointees allowing the voter registrations to go forward over the dissent of another appointee, because it doesn't matter what side they're on. Just because you're appointed by someone doesn't mean that they're going to they're going to rule in your favor. The measures were passed on party line votes and signed into law by Governor Doug Ducey, a Republican, amid a wave of proposals that Republicans introduced around the country after Trump's loss, and this would have included Arizona. The state and local elections, voters must provide proof of citizenship when they register or have it on file with the state, since it isn't a requirement for federal elections for Congress or president. Tens of thousands of voters who haven't provided proof of citizenship are registered only for federal elections. There were 41,352 of those voters registered as of August 9th in Arizona. Now, the GOP push to block those voters would mostly impact illegals. If you read what they say that it impacts military service members. How would it? Because if they're in the military, then they can provide proof of their citizenship very easily. And Native American students and Native American. Well, how would it affect them? How would it affect students? Are students not required to have a government issued ID? Are Native Americans allowed to drive? Does it not show on their driver's license, government issued ID, that they're American citizens? So about 27% of those voters are registered Democrats and 15% are Republicans. More than half are registered independents. So how would you know? How would you know what they're registered at, yet you can't figure out whether they're an American citizen or not? Curious. Voting rights groups and the Biden administration sued over those laws. I guess they would. You can't let it get you down. You have FNL, NASCAR, and Daytona this weekend. Yes, we do. No, students can't drive. That's true. That's true. Arizona House Speaker, who along with Senate President Warren Peterson, she had asked the court to take up the issue, said in a statement on Thursday's order was a step in the right direction to require proof of citizenship in all of our elections. And it doesn't matter whether they're Republicans or Democrats. You would think that you wouldn't want to have a bunch of Russians tampering with your election now, would you? It's a thought. I mean, if you want Chinese nationals to be voting in your elections, then why wouldn't you want to push to make sure that doesn't happen? Federal-only voters have been subject to political wrangling since the Supreme Court ruled in 2013 that Arizona cannot require documentary proof of citizenships for people to vote in national elections. Well, the state responded by creating two classes of voters, those who can vote in all races and those who can vote only in federal elections. There is no evidence the existence of federal-only voters has allowed non-citizens to illegally vote. There's no evidence. We just showed 41,000 cases, over 41,000 cases of instances that they have been. One of the new laws sought to further divide voters. I don't think voters are divided, except if you're voting illegally. That would be the only dividing point right there. Allowing votes in congressional elections without proof of citizenship, but deny the vote in presidential elections. How is that divisive? The legislature's own lawyer said as much as the measure was unconstitutional. Sure, they would. Directly contradicted the earlier Supreme Court decision was likely to be thrown out in court, but it wasn't. Meanwhile, the Arizona Supreme Court ruled on a handful of other election-related cases Thursday, clearing the way for ballot measures that were facing legal challenges to now appear before voters. Arizona voters will have a chance to decide on whether they want to establish open primary elections in which all the candidates compete regardless of their party affiliation, changing the state's primaries from closed to open. Justices bucked two of the opponents' multiple arguments. The measure faces one pending challenge, but if it's not ruled on by early Friday morning, the measure will officially be kept on the ballot. Voters in other states, including Idaho, South Dakota, and Nevada, will also decide on similar ballot measures concerning open primary elections this November. The High Court also ruled the title of a measure to decrease workers' wages up to 25% per hour if they are tipped was not misleading, placed it on November ballot. Amazing that they don't want you to hear the actual truth, but tell you the lie and make you believe that that's what it is. And of course, U.S. expands area in Mexico to apply for border asylum appointments, hoping to slow push north. As soon as she stepped onto Mexican soil this week, Venezuelan migrant Yuri Carolina Melendez downloaded the U.S. government's app to apply for asylum appointments. But she shouldn't be able to. If you want asylum, you're supposed to stop in the first country that you come to. That would be per international law. But yet, the CBP One app has been around, but as of Friday, illegals in Mexico's southernmost states bordering Guatemala will be able to apply for appointments. Previously, they had to be in central or northern Mexico. I have to wait to see if it really works, the woman said while resting under a tree with her 16 and 18-year-old daughters along the border highway leading to the city of Tapachula this week. Mexico has been asking the U.S. to expand the app's access to the South in an attempt to relieve the illegals that feel the need to continue north to at least Mexico City. In recent years, the Mexican government has tried to contain illegals in the South further from the U.S. border, but the lack of work opportunities and housing in southern cities like Tapachula have pushed illegals north. Because as much as they want to call them migrants, you have to understand that migrants, they come and then they go home. They come and then they go home. They don't come and stay and vote in federal elections. They don't come and stay and get paid, $30,000 to buy a house. They don't come and get paid to live in a hotel room for years. spreading tuberculosis, raping and pillaging the women of our country, beating people to death. Migrants don't come to do that. They come to do some work and head home. Illegals, now they come to this country to cause problems. Mexico hopes that if illegals can wait for their appointments by the South, they might not risk getting snagged by authorities without papers or organized crime groups that prey on illegals traveling north. With an appointment, they could, in theory, move without interference. Well, I doubt that. The 31-year-old from Honduras, traveling with his wife and 3 children, planned to register as soon as they reach Tapachula. We're going to apply here and we're going to wait for the appointment. Others, however, still felt the pressure to get farther north. Many illegals often carry big debts and need to start paying them off as soon as possible, making them slaves in the United States to people that don't have their best interest at heart. Melendez, for instance, said she planned on keep moving to improve her chances of finding work. CBP 1 has been one of the measures of greatest impact in the U.S. efforts to bring order to the growing demand for asylum in the U.S. Because as soon as they get to the U.S., right before they cross the border, they burn their IDs, passports. Do we have? Oh yeah, there's work here in the United States. Don't you know? They increased the jobs by less than what they actually claim. In 2023, the fiscal year, the U.S. Customs Border Protection reported more than 2.4 million encounters with illegals along the U.S. southern border. That was just in 2023. Since the app was launched in 2023, more than 765,000 people have scheduled appointments to request asylum. And of course, as you know, immigration has become the top issue in the U.S. presidential election. As much as they want to tell you it's all about abortion, it's not. But when the Biden administration temporarily suspended that asylum process for those who crossed illegally in June, the app became one of the only ways to request asylum, and it handles 1,500 appointments daily. And isn't it weird that he did this in June, that he suspended it just a little while before he did his horrible speech, his horrible debate with Donald Trump. And then following along that, you have him dropping out of the race and handing the reins and all the money and the keys to the kingdom to someone who has done nothing to work for it. Right before an election. So odd that they would play that kind of game. The number of illegals crossing the U.S. border has fallen significantly since peaking in December 2023. But that's the lie. Washington attributes much of that decline to Mexico's enforcement efforts. Yeah. Because they're doing everything they can to make it appear that illegals are not coming across the border. An open letter to the Mexican government Thursday, they called CBP 1 a violation of international law because it allows the U.S. to limit access to its territory for people in need of protection. Yes, it's perfect timing because Biden is perfect. The groups urged the many illegals wind up stuck in Mexico for months waiting in full shelters or camping in unsanitary conditions. Do you think that that's going to change whenever they get to the US? Oh, that's right. It doesn't, because they put them in hotels where the stench and the smell of human feces can be smelt for miles around, where they sit on street corners in Chicago begging for money, begging to get back home. While they wait, they are vulnerable to kidnapping, SA, torture, extortion by criminals and authorities. Really? Well, then here's a novel idea. Stay the hell home. Go back to your country. Or seek asylum in the first country that you come to, which you're supposed to be doing in the first place. In theory, Mexico's National Immigration Institute allows illegals with CBP-1 appointments to travel freely to the U.S. border, but the organization said authorities still sometimes detain illegals and send them south again to keep them from the border. The Institute did not respond to a request for comment about those allegations. In southern Mexico, illegals have been targets of smugglers and criminals, but the region was quite peaceful for the rest of its inhabitants. Now the situation has changed. The southern border region is locked in a territorial struggle between Mexico's drug cartels, which want to control the routes for smuggling drugs, weapons, and illegals. Violence is part of daily life in a lot of those border towns. Isn't that weird? Among the illegals waiting in Hidalgo's Central Plaza near the Suachi River that divides Mexico and Guatemala, the question remains whether to wait or keep moving north. As a group of illegals debated the answer, the factor that weighed most heavily was money. The illegals had heard the chances of finding jobs are higher in central and northern Mexico, and money is needed for what could be months-long wait for an appointment. If there are work opportunities, we'll stay. If not, we'll keep advancing until they give us an appointment. Your daughter isn't well. She's fed through a feeding tube. We need help. That's tough crap, isn't it? What about an American's daughter that you could be taking away a job from that father that needs help also? The United Nations Refugee Agency is cautious about CBP-1's expansion. The Mexico chief for the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees said it could mean fewer risks for illegals headed north, but he added that dealing with illegals requires diverse measures, those like stabilizing the countries of origin, protection in the transit countries, and options for regularization and asylum in destination countries. And the United States should not be. For Noemi Ramirez, a 47-year-old from El Salvador, hearing that she could begin her asylum application from Mexico's with her 19-year-old daughter for Tapachula, we're going to wait until we get an appointment. I'm not thinking of going any further, she said as they walked, worrying about the violence they could face along the way. I'm not going to risk it with my daughter. We're alone. Well, you just risked it by crossing the border in the first place. What do you think is going on in Venezuela? Do you not see what is happening in countries around the world? Socialism at its greatest, that same socialism that they want to bring here to the United States. It's surprising to me. Hey, Toy, how you doing? Good to see you. Are you lost in a dream, Toy? Are you lost in a dream? It's just surprising to me that they try to put this down as something other than what it actually is. Oh my gosh. So what is this? RFK Jr. questioned New York court over signature collectors who concealed his name on petitions. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faced questions in a New York court Thursday about his presidential campaign, handled revelations that some people gathered signatures to get him on the state ballot, concealed his name on the petition, and used other deceptive methods. Kennedy's virtual appearance from an office in California came a day after his campaign announced that he will speak Friday about his path forward. The announcement fueled speculation that he could drop out of the race and support Donald Trump. Testifying in a trial over a lawsuit backed by the DNC that seeks to keep Kennedy off of New York's ballot, he acknowledged that his campaign submitted thousands of signatures gathered by a subcontractor, despite knowing that some of its canvassers used deceptive tactics. Are they the same kind of deceptive tactics that the RNC would use? Is it the same deceptive tactics that the DNC would use? The lawsuit alleges, among other claims of fraud, that the top of some petition sheets had been folded down so the names of Kennedy and his VP running mate, Nicole Shanahan, could not be seen, and only their little-known electors were visible. I suppose I'm ultimately responsible for everything that happens in the campaign, Kennedy said on the witness stand, pointing out that he wasn't abreast of every detail involved in some contractors' balloting efforts. When asked if he was ultimately responsible for the decisions to submit the signatures, he said yes. New York requires independent candidates to gather petitions with 45,000 signatures from potential voters, which this is something that Kamala Harris never did. Kennedy's campaign ultimately managed to gather nearly 3 times that on top of those gathered by the subcontractor. But in April, complaint from a voter in May, a New York Times article raised concerns about whether some people signing the petitions knew which candidate they had been asked to support. Kennedy's staff was concerned too. The day after the Times article was published, Kennedy's campaign manager and daughter-in-law, Emily Kennedy, said in an email to other staff that the questionable petitions gathered by the contractor should not be used. We're obviously pulling all the petitions they submitted and won't use any of them as they're likely rife with other hidden errors buried there to disqualify us once submitted. According to court documents, the campaign sued the subcontractor, arguing that it had to pay them even though none of the signatures were usable. Kennedy said in news interviews at the time that no petitions from the subcontractor were submitted, but he acknowledged during his testimony that's not what actually happened. Instead, the campaign weeded out around 800 pages containing 8,000 signatures with visible creases indicating that they had been folded, putting them in 2 bankers' boxes labeled fraud box. Campaign created an affidavit intended to cure the remaining petitions by having the canvassers affirm in writing that they hadn't committed fraud and submitted over 1,200 signatures from the subcontractor as evidence of New York's voting wanting to see him on the ballot. Lawyers for the plaintiffs, however, produced at least one example of a crease page that was submitted to the state instead of ending up in the fraud box. Well, that's going to happen. The subcontractor did not immediately respond to a phone message and an email request for comment. The judge, in a separate legal challenge, has already barred Kennedy from appearing on New York's ballot, though he has appealed. That suit has argued that Kennedy's petitions were invalid because they listed him as living in New York when he actually resides in California. His wife, Cheryl Hines, I guess she was from Curb Your Enthusiasm, never heard of it. An appeals court is scheduled to hear arguments next week in that case. And he's facing similar ballot challenges in several other states from Democrats. They really don't like Kennedy. Democrats really despise that guy. Surprise, surprise, surprise. And of course, as you know, that the pro-Palestinian delegate said their request for a speaker at the DNC was shut down. Well, of course it was. Because that would not look good. Good morning, Stacy. How you doing? Good to see you. Oh, by the way, good to see you, Toy. And missed anybody? I'm sorry. I try to catch you guys all when you come in. Oh, wonderful! You really are. You make this so much fun. Leaders of an uncommitted movement, which garnered hundreds of thousands of votes in Democrat primaries across the nation in protest of Israel, have been negotiating for weeks to secure a speaking slot for a Palestinian American. That makes no sense. At the Democrat National Convention this week. The negotiations stalled late Wednesday when leaders with uncommitted national movements say the DNC official called and delivered a firm response. The answer is no, bitches. Mm-hmm. 6,000 feet above sea level, you mean? The leader, Abbas Awaliwali, an uncommitted delegate to the convention and co-founder of the movement, described the call as shocking after weeks of talks that he felt were positive. Of course. But the problem is the look of that, of the DNC supporting the pro-Palestinian movement, would really deride them even further in the polls. If people understood that all of those folks they're seeing down there at those protests are paid actors. Not all of them, but a good portion of them. They're being paid to be there. Because there's this big push to bring this about. How do you think it's going to go with Halan Omar, most of the squad, whenever they find out that there's this push for Palestine, and the Harris campaign has come out and said, we're going to work to support Israel in one breath, but then say, but we're making it a ceasefire. So they're not working for peace in the region. They're working to keep it destabilized, because as long as you have a war going on, they believe from the way that it used to be. You're not as angry today. Good thing, Ballstorm. I didn't know you were angry. I'm confused whenever the Democrats say they're for a ceasefire, but yet they're not willing to call out one party over the other. That kind of wishy-washy attitude that really gets people confused of what is their stance. Are they pro-Palestine or are they not? Well, all you have to do is vote for Camel Toe and you'll get to find out how she really feels about Palestine. Because everything that she's done has been very anti-American. In response, he and other delegates decided to stage a sit-in outside Chicago's United Center, where the convention is being held. They spent the night on the sidewalk on Wednesday and vowed to remain until the request was granted or the convention ended Thursday night. When we ran out of options, doing everything we can and working from the inside, when we ran out of options as uncommitted delegates, we just sat down. The Harris campaign, well, they declined to comment because, plebs, I do not answer to you. The sit-in outside the United Center has exposed cracks in the Democrat Party, unlike the slots that are already there, that otherwise have rallied around the Harris campaign. Isn't that really amazing? And energized a vast majority of the party members this week. The news that the DNC had denied the request of a Palestinian American speaker just a day after featuring the parents of an Israeli American hostage held by Hamas ignited fresh criticism from the left. The politically powerful United Auto Workers Union, which has endorsed the VP, said the party must allow a Palestinian American speaker to be heard from the DNC stage tonight. And in Cook County, where Chicago and the convention is located, it holds the largest population of Palestinian Americans in the country. You okay, bitch? Exactly. The party, however, has not budged. Of course, why would they? Because if they allow the pro-Palestinian movement in there, it goes to show what the Democrat Party believes. Like I said, all of those protesters that you see there, they were there to disrupt lightly what's going on inside the DNC. How did that affect the DNC? It affected it so much that nobody inside the DNC even seemed to notice or care. They said, "Hey, you plebs, you must stay outside. You don't belong here." But they knew that was going to happen. That's why they were there. He said, "Be quiet. Be quiet unless you want to elect Trump." That's what Schumer told a small group of reporters on Thursday ahead of the convention's final evening. "We believe we need unity, and there's overwhelming. I have never seen such unity," he said. "A small handful of people does not represent close to even a sliver of where the Democrat Party is right now." Tensions over the war in Gaza have at times escalated outside the convention center this week as thousands marched through Chicago demanding a ceasefire. Well, isn't that what Hamilton just said? She's demanding a ceasefire. A smaller group of activists clashed with police outside the Israeli consulate on Tuesday night, leading to 56 people being arrested. And that's just a catch and release kind of arrest. I mean, you're protesting illegally here. You just go home, and they're back out on the street the next day. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, a Muslim Democrat. Okay, don't care. Don't care what your religion is. It's just like saying, well, he was arrested by a Christian cop. You have to remember, the party of the Democrat Party is all about division. It is keeping people divided. Because if people are divided, they won't unite to make sure that all of the policies are in line. They can't unite around a single candidate, because they divide people just to make sure that they don't vote for somebody else. A Palestinian American sharing his or her story, calling for ceasefire, release of all hostages, and calling everyone to support the ticket against fascism would be powerful, Ellison said on social media Thursday. Many other Democrat leaders urged the party to reconsider the request. In a statement, Representative Ro Kahan said the Democrat Party, which aspires to be the party of human rights, must not, in 2024, perpetuate this erasure of the Palestinian story. When asked at a roundtable discussion Thursday whether he agreed with the uncommitted delegates' demand to add a Palestinian American speaker to the DNC lineup, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said, "Yes, of course. We're talking about thousands of babies and elderly people being brutalized by an act of war. You have to have a voice that calls for peace as well as the release of the hostages." According to Alla Walla Wally, the uncommitted movement provided a number of potential Palestinian Americans who could speak at the convention, including Representative Rawani Ramanamana. Ramanamana on Thursday released a draft of the speech she said she planned to deliver if asked. And in it, she called for electing Harris, defeating Donald Trump, and outlines demand for a ceasefire, an end to the killing of Palestinians, and freedom of all the Israeli and Palestinian hostages. Earlier this week, activists were granted unprecedented space at the convention to hold a forum addressing the plight of the Gaza residents who have been under Israeli bombardment since Hamas' October 7th attack and taking of hostages. And they failed to tell you how many people they killed, brutally slaughtered at a music festival. They failed to mention this in the news story. The panel was viewed as an olive branch from the Harris campaign with hopes that other requests might be fulfilled later in the week. But that's not what happened. With the convention has officially made Harris the Democrat Party's presidential nominee. Well, they did that whenever they elected her as VP in 2020. The vast majority of the nearly 4,000 delegates enthusiastically casting their votes for her, like casting it like coins in a wishing well. But those calling for a ceasefire in the Israel war, among other demands, such as arms embargo on Israel, believe they have outsized influence in the November election. 17. Michigan, in one of the key swing states, has the largest percentage of Arab Americans in the country. The UAW, which hosted Harris at a Union Hall event earlier this month, also has its largest membership base in Michigan. In a statement, the leader of the state of the Democrat Party, Lavorda Barnes, said the Palestinian Americans should have a speaking role Thursday night so their voices can be heard. All of our delegates are part of our Michigan Democrat Party family. So Thursday, Democrats on their way to the convention stopped by the sit-in. Representative Cori Bush, a member of the progressive congressional group known as DSWAG, who lost her primary earlier this month, stopped to mingle with the uncommitted delegates. We are Democrats. We are party of this part, and we're just saying, here is because it matters, said Bush. Like I said, the pro-Palestinian movement is part of the Democrat Party. Always has been, always will be. And they are probably a little bit salty because they weren't given a platform to speak, but that's a little nudge. People also, unless you were watching last night, you wouldn't have known that Trump was at the Arizona border and was showing a lot of sympathy, empathy, care, concern for people that have been affected as far away as 1,800 miles away from Venezuela or from the border by families that have had their loved ones removed from the face of the earth violently by illegals. That's why Trump was at the southern border. And if you see all that's around him, all of that fencing that's around him that they couldn't put it up. Yeah. Nosy Rosie noticed. Like that, how that sort of slid off the tongue. A southern Arizona man was arrested for allegedly making death threats against Donald Trump on social media, authorities said Thursday, the same day the Republican former president and 2024 candidate was in the area to visit the U.S.-Mexico border. The Cochise County Sheriff's Office identified the suspect as Ronald Lee, 66, from the city of Benson. It's in the same county as the border area where Trump was visiting in the afternoon and that his running mate, Senator Vance, went to in recent weeks. The sheriff's office said Sherwood was arrested around 2:30 during a traffic stop as part of the operations plan in place for the visit of a candidate, Donald Trump, on today's date. Locating the subject was a priority. An online search failed to turn up any social media accounts in his name or any contact information for him. His name did not immediately appear on the list of inmates at the county jail, and there was no word yet whether he had a court date or an attorney that could speak on his behalf. The sheriff's office said Sherwood was booked on several outstanding warrants in Wisconsin for driving under influence and failure to appear in court, as well as a felony hit-and-run charge in Graham County, Arizona. The failure to register as a SA offender in Cochino County, Arizona. Amazing. And they actually mentioned that Trump survived at the very bottom of the page in an assassination attempt July 13th. So a little bit over a month ago. This Wednesday, at his first outdoor rally since the attempt, he spoke from behind a bulletproof glass in North Carolina at an event focused on national security. Oh, they did make a correction to spell the name correctly. Judy Woodruff apologizes for an on-air remark about peace talks in Israel. Correspondent Judy Woodruff apologized on Wednesday for comments she made on air regarding former President Donald Trump and negotiations for a ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. Woodruff, during PBS's Democrat National Convention coverage on Monday, repeated a story she had read in Axios and Reuters that Trump had allegedly been encouraging Prime Minister Netanyahu to put off peace talks until after the U.S. election in the belief that a deal could help Kamala Harris's campaign. He repeated a lie. And how many other people have repeated that lie? Over and over and over and over. These kinds of lies are being repeated. Good for her that she stood up and said, yes, it was a lie. This is not true. Same way as it is not true that Trump had any influence on people not voting on this horrible border bill that they call a bipartisan border bill because of Trump. I wish they would apologize for that too. Or how about the same lie or gaslighting they've been telling people about Donald Trump? And they constantly do this. They constantly will tell you that Trump said there are fine people on both sides without putting it into context. Any of the multiple lies that they've told about Trump that have been shown to be complete, utter fabrications. Woodruff said in a post on Twitter Wednesday that she had not seen later reporting that the story had been denied by the Trump campaign and by Israel. She said her remarks had not been based on any original reporting on her part. Of course it wasn't. This was a mistake and I apologize for it, but not really. Woodruff's long career in journalism has included time at CNN, NBC News. She was a host of PBS's New Hour between 2013 and 2022 before stepping down for a reporting project. That's my dad. God. Sad. That is so bad. Oh, I want to show that so much. All right, it's time to get some. What happened, JD? You fall asleep? I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep. Good Lord Almighty. Here's what we're going to do. A little coffee break song. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. Get your dancing shoes on. Grab yourself some coffee. In 3, 2, 1.
Shores, get a tan, Rambo the orangutan. Driving a golf cart, oh man, Rambo is half crazy, yes he can. Well, that SOB's a sight to F and C. Oh, Rambo's rolling, has the sun, he's free at last. While Shizzy has his coffee, these two are having an effing blast. Whoa, Rambo's rolling, has the sun, he's free at last. While Shizzy has his coffee, these two are having an effing blast. Shizzy on the dunes, coffee in hand. Rambo is a loon, and Shizzy is, well, that is too dirty to say here. Shizzy on the dunes, coffee in hand. Rambo is a loon, and Shizzy is a, that is too dirty to say here, Oh, Rambo's rolling, has the sun, he's free at last. While Shizzy has his coffee, these two are having an effing blast. Otters in the surf, hummingbirds in the sky. Rambo honks the horn and spits in Shizzy's eye. Oh my! Oh, Rambo's rolling, has the sun, he's free at last. While Shizzy Shizzy has his coffee. These two are having an effing blast. Oh, Rambo's rolling. Rambo takes a turn, driving to the way. Otters wave their paws, telling Rambo, not sure, but if you could understand, Otter, it probably wasn't nice. Rambo takes a turn, driving to the waves. Otters wave their paws, telling Rambo, not sure, but if you could understand, Otter, it probably wasn't nice. Oh, Rambo's rolling, 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 as the sun he's free at last. While Shizzy has his coffee, these two are having an epic blast. So here's to Rambo, otters and hummingbirds by the edge of the ocean. And Shizzy, well, he might just be there too. Well, here's to Rambo, otters and hummingbirds by the edge of the ocean. And Shizzy, well, he might just be there too.
Yeah. Good to see you, all you fine people. You do like the little Rambo jazzy song, but I missed the peen. Okay, that's weird, but okay. I understand what you're talking about, though. I got you. So is going against the ideas of the group. If I start thinking Trump isn't Satan, my family will disown you. Yes, so. Oh my gosh. Well, and then of course, this I guess made the news also. Andrew Tate placed under house arrest as new human trafficking allegations emerge involving minors. In Bucharest, Romania. Court in Romania's capital Thursday placed the divisive internet influence Andrew Tate under house arrest for 30 days as prosecutors investigate a sprawling new case that involves allegations of human trafficking of minors and sex with a minor. Bucharest Tribunal's decision comes a day after prosecutors detained 6 people, including Tate, 37, and his brother Tristan Tate, 36, after masked police raided 4 homes in Bucharest and nearby something I can't pronounce that county. Prosecutors had asked the court to remand the brothers in custody for 30 days. Tristan has been placed under judicial control, which typically involves geographical restrictions and reporting periodically to the police. The brother spokesperson, Matthias something or other, responded to the decision by saying the judge denied prosecutors' request due to the brothers' exemplary behavior while previously under preventative arrest measures in a separate case, and that they firmly deny all allegations against them, remain steadfast in proving their innocence. The Tate brothers, both former kickboxers and dual British U.S. citizens, are already waiting trial in Romania in a separate human trafficking case, along with 2 Romanian women. In the new case, it's bull, don't care. Looks like, yeah, so there you go. They were arrested again. So Tristan's baby mama is on that list. Yeah. I don't know anything about Andrew Tate. I find him boring, I guess is the best way of putting it. I mean, I guess there's people that find him inspiring or something. It's just like, okay. I mean, if you want to, fine. I don't care. Taterheads. I guess that's what they're called. I don't know. I honestly really don't. I don't follow someone like that. To me, they seem like they have a skewed outlook of the world. And I'm sure that he's probably a lovely person or not. I don't know. I don't really care. I mean, for those people out there that might be following Andrew Tate and think that he's the next greatest thing since, I don't know, sliced bread or, OnlyFans, I don't know. Really, just I don't find anything about him to be interesting. Oh, an Iceland volcano erupts again, but spazed the nearby town of Grindavik. I think that's right. Wow. A volcano southwestern Iceland erupted Thursday evening for the 6th time since December, spewing red lava. Spewing through a new fissure on I'm not even going to try to say the name of that peninsula. Rake James Peninsula. The eruption begins shortly after 9 p.m. following a series of strong earthquakes, and within the hour, a 2.4 mile fissure cut through the crater. Iceland authorities say the eruption effects remain localized with road closures, but do not threaten the population. Haldor Bornesen, head of the weather and climate in the Norwegian meteorological agency, told Icelandic news portal Visor that unlike previous eruptions, are they going to say ejections? Day has a high following with the rebellious 14 and 16-year-olds. Tay-tay. Tay-tay. The lava flow is not headed for the town of Grindavik, which was largely evacuated in December when the volcano came to life after being dormant for 800 years. Mangus Tuma Gudmundsson, the geophysicist who flew over the eruption centers this evening, told the website that if this continues like this, Grindavik is not in danger because of this. Of course, we don't know what will happen in the near future, but it is likely that this has reached its peak in this eruption, and then it will start to subside like the other eruptions. As news of the eruption spread, hundreds of curious onlookers drove to a nearby vantage points for a view of a stunning natural phenomenon that has become key tourism attraction. We just thought it was the Northern Lights, said Manohar Ali, visiting from Maryland in the U.S. It's like the coolest thing I've seen in my whole life. Honestly, bro. Friends Amir Awalawana Malaysia and Shahomi Muhammad from Japan were with the Icelandic friend when they heard the news and quickly rushed to the nearby eruption. We have like a volcano as well, said Miyamoto, but we cannot see lava like this. But for the people living and working on the peninsula, the regular eruptions and ensuing evacuation orders will undoubtedly be met with frustration. The repeated volcanic eruptions close to Grindavik, the town of 3,800 people, about 50 miles or 30 miles southwest of the capital, Reykjavik, have damaged infrastructure and property and forced many residents to relocate to guarantee their safety. The few who had returned were forced out once again Thursday night as strong winds blew plumes of toxic gas over the town. The nearby Blue Lagoon geothermal spa, one of Iceland's biggest tourist attractions, was also evacuated, with social media videos showing sirens blasting around dusk. Iceland, which sits above a volcanic hotspot in the North Atlantic, averages one eruption every 4 to 5 years. The most disruptive in the recent times was the 2010 eruption of... If I read this like I saw it, that's going to be so bad, because it's going to say you jack off a line volcano, which spewed clouds of ash into the atmosphere and disrupted transatlantic air travel for months. The eruption is not expected to impact air travel. Ew! That one was one of my favorite stories this morning. Oh my God. Oh, that one made my morning. Good morning, Zach. How you doing? Good morning, Betsy. Let's go. Did you miss camel toe? I don't know. Does anybody miss camel toe? Let's see here. The joyful Democrat convention is over. Oh, thank God. It was so joyful. Oh, spew. Spew. Oh, the real test for Camel Toe campaign now begins. What? You mean it wasn't a difficult test this go around? There's nothing joyful about this woman at all. She just seems very miserable and unsatisfied in life. Chicago. Over and over from the I thought this said massive something else whenever I saw that. Over and over from the message. in the electric convention hall, the Democrats this week predicted Camel Toe would defeat Donald Trump. They described her historic figure, the embodiment of hope. Oh, the absolute embodiment of hope. Or better known as
the President of Joy.
The word of caution was quickly drowned out by the excitement that overwhelmed the standing room only. Oh, wait, what did it say? But amid the extraordinary optimism, Michelle Obama offered a sober warning. Well, what was that sober warning?
No matter how good we feel tonight or tomorrow or the next day, this is going to be an uphill battle.
But amid the extraordinary optimism, former First Lady is not sober at all. That word of caution was quickly drowned out by the excitement that overwhelmed the standing room only 1,700 person arena in downtown Chicago. Oh, 17,000. Sorry. The theme of the DNC was lie forward. Lie on your back, lie on your face, doesn't matter, just lie. Oh, but as activists, operatives, and party leaders leave the Democrat National Convention and fan out across America, a stark reality exists. Oh my God, the real test for Camel Toe Harris has only just begun. For more than a month after President Joe Biden stepped aside and endorsed her, Harris has barely started to outline any plans that she would pursue as president to address the nation's biggest challenges. Isn't it really weird that they leave out all of the things that they were talking about? They failed to address during the whole campaign one of the leading issues in this country: illegals. That's the main thing that they failed to address. They did not address the problem with illegals crossing into this country. The second thing that they never addressed was election law. They didn't address those at all. They didn't address anything about the economy. They failed to address what was happening in our country, that their jobs report was wrong. Their claim of how many jobs they've created. Oh, yeah, that came out on Wednesday. Jobs report came out on Wednesday. It's not as peachy as everyone thought it was. Weird how that sort of got left to the wayside, because what did they want to talk about? They wanted to talk about deleting children. That was their big takeaway. And Project 2025. It seems that they know more about Project 2025 than anybody else. Did you ever watch Trump interview with Theo Vaughn? Hilarious. Oh, I want to, but I'm not sure what that'll do on my channel. I really want to pull it up. I would have to I'd really like to. I'd really like to. All she did was lie, 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 and no agenda. No, the agenda is Trump is bad. That's all their agenda is. And because they don't have an agenda, they basically say they're going to do the same thing that Trump is going to do, except we're going to do it more. If Trump came out tomorrow and said that he was on his first day, he was going to have a national lockdown of everyone that was Republican and not allow them to vote in another presidential election, the Democrats would jump up and say, well, we're going to lock down the Democrats too. The DNC was a big concert with surprise performances. Yeah, Orange Mad Bad is the only thing that unites them. Yes. For more than a month after Joe Biden stepped aside and endorsed her, Harris has not been able to outline or has decided not to address any of their biggest challenge. Immigration, crime, and climate change are among those things. She is yet to sit down for even one media interview to face difficult question about her lies on policy in recent years. Her leadership style and the focus on race and gender is only thing that she's been talking about. That's all the focus has been, race and gender. Two things that cannot be changed, no matter how hard you try. No matter how hard you try, you cannot change your race, nor can you change your gender. And, of course, we can't put our heads in the sand. She's a black woman. The bar is going to be higher for everything. Why? Is he calling her short? Because she's a woman? I don't understand. This is a pollster who served the last 3 Democrat presidential nominees. And guess what that means? Even mistakes are going to be magnified. No. Because you're running for office. You're running for the highest office in the nation. All of your lies and your mistakes are going to be brought to light. They get laid out for everyone to see. The whole world gets to see how horrible of a person you really are. I can tell you, as poorly as she did during the primary where she dropped out, how quickly she is going to get just totally trounced by Trump. It is going to be so easy to set her back. Even worse is he's going to do it in her own town. On her platform, he is going to make her look like an absolute fool. And it is going to be so fun to watch. And of course, the next day, you'll have all of the media saying, oh, she did so great. Trump, the misogynistic, racist man that he is. Because you can't lie during those. I mean, you can, but it doesn't do any good. At the same time, Harris allies acknowledge that she remains completely and absolutely defined by her administration where she currently is right now. That's what defines her. Everything that the Biden-Harris regime has been doing over the past, well, it's been over 3.5 years, how bad it's made this country. That's what has defined her. They want to say that she remains largely undefined. No, I disagree. She has been completely defined by everything that she's done up to this point. She remains defined by she moved into positions of power because of the position she moved into under the sheets. She moved into these positions because of the color of her skin, because of her talking the talk. That's what defines her as AG, as a senator. Her poor policies that she's enacted with Biden for the past three and a half years plus is what defines her. So whenever they say she's largely undefined, no, sweetheart, too late. You've been defined. You defined yourself. Unless you're going to say that the past 3.5 years were an absolute mistake and you throw Joe under the bus, you have defined it. Nor do they like a cheater enabler. And this Chris Wallace is a failure. Nobody likes a traitor. Yeah. Hey, Zach. Tracy Spencer, good to see you. In the Panhandle area. Awesome. Awesome. I love it. She's been operating with Biden for much of the last 4 years. And she's saying relative anonymity offers both opportunity and risk, but she hasn't been anonymous. She's been very well defined. She was supposed to be getting control of the border, which she failed to do miserably. She was supposed to be helping out with women, which she failed miserably. Everything she's done, she's pretty much failed at, except for, what she's done between the sheets. So the bad thing about vice president is just nobody knows who you are. The good thing about vice president is nobody knows who you are, said David Axelrod, who served as Barack Obama's chief strategist. Well, David, I would say something about corks and sucking, but there's no point in doing that. So what's Harris going to do now? Harris now just has over 2 weeks to prepare for what could be her only presidential debate against Donald Trump. A September 10th showdown that could dramatically shift the direction of the race. The first presidential debate, of course, effectively forced Biden to drop out of the race. But for now, Harris's team feels no urgency to roll out a comprehensive policy platform or sit for media interviews that might jeopardize the positive vibes that have defiled her nascent campaign and produced a flood of campaign donations and growing army of swingers. Oh, I'm sorry, swing state volunteers. Join the evil matrimony that they feel now more entitled. Yes. Good morning, Tracy Spencer. The debate where she called out Biden on BS and then joined in evil matrimony. They feel more entitled. Yeah. And now they do. During a series of meetings throughout the convention week, her advisors cast her policy agenda as a continuation and expansion of Biden's first-term achievements, partially on economic matters, even if they may look and sound different in some cases. The thing is they're having a hard time backtracking all of the things that she's done wrong. Like, you can't unring the bell, but they will try over the next month, less than a month. So in less than a month, she's got a debate. She's saying that she's going to have her policy and her agenda by the end of this month. She's going to do an interview by the end of this month. Doubt it, but okay. Who will that interview be with? Oh, it'll probably be some sit-down interview with a person of her choice. And yes, my policy is unlike Donald Trump's. I want to take care of the tipping problem here. I want tipped workers to hold more of their cash. Unlike my counterpart Donald Trump, I want to expand the tax credit bill. Child tax credit. But that's the thing. You can't define yourself by being what you already are, because you've already been defined. You've defined yourself over the past, 69 years of your life. If people don't know who she is, then, oh my God. Go back and look at her campaign platforms whenever she actually campaigned. During a series of meetings throughout the convention week, her advisor cast her policy agenda. Harris has notably dropped her opposition to fracking and her support for Medicare for all, which were defining features of her 2019 campaign. Her aides insist her values remain the same. No. She's going to work to support and lead pragmatic, common sense policies that are going to directly relate to improving the lives of Americans, said a senior campaign policy advisor, Brian Nelson. Really? Really? Then, so what has she been doing for the past 3.5 years? Meanwhile, Harris's allies believe it's only a matter of time before Trump settles on an effective line of attack. No? Trump does not have to attack. He has no reason to. There's no attack coming from Trump at all. That's the problem that they're having, because Trump isn't attacking her. He just says that she's communist. If you want a communist in there, go ahead. Her Marxist views define her. Well, Trump's kitchen sink approach against Harris, which they're saying is he throws everything at her except for the kitchen, including the kitchen sink. In recent days, he's adopted a kitchen sink approach against Harris that includes attacks about her racial identity, her laugh, her record as vice president, and her history as a San Francisco liberal. Really? Because it sounds to me like he never attacked her race. He said she claimed to be Indian up until the point where it was more notable for her to claim to be black. And she denies the Indian part because even the news wants to report her as South Asian. So, like Blasian. Weird how that works. Her record as vice president, her laugh is, well, that's just easy. That's one thing that defines her, is her laugh. I mean, that cackle defines her. Her record as vice president, yeah, because that's what defines her. And her history as a San Francisco liberal, because that's what defines her. Like, she's thrown no policy out there. If you don't have any policy, then what else are you left with? She's an idiot. I mean, I don't know what else can you mention? Because if you don't put a policy out there, then you can't show policy is. All you're left with is basically an empty shell of a human being. Is sort of a vessel. Weird, huh? Well, Josh Shapiro says he'll figure out how to get a message and land a political punch. Well, because she has to do something politically. I mean, being on your hands and knees, slobbing on the knob does not make it political. It just makes what defines her. I think what you've seen is her inability to absorb the criticism and just keep going. Really, really important political trait. Okay. But she has done nothing. You're hill country. Hey, it's right, son. Others acknowledge that the spotlight will only burn brighter in the 74-day sprint to election day, and it's far from certain that the Harris honeymoon, as Trump's team has described this phase of the campaign, will last much longer. People ask this question: will people vote for a black woman? And I actually think that's always the wrong question, says Sarah Longwell. a fierce Trump critic and leader of Republican voters against Trump. I think the question is, will they vote for a camel toe Harris with her particular set of both skills? Yeah. And her baggage. Oh, man. Oh, man. No, people don't care what race she is, except the Democrat Party. They are the ones that have to define the kind of person that she is. And they show you how she flip-flops. She is going to say whatever she needs to say. What is going to be the thing that gets me elected, damn it? Whose knob does she need to swallow to get elected? Just put it out there. She will choke it down. The biggest problem for Camel Toe is that people view her as too progressive, because that's how she's defined herself, as being the most progressive senator, as the most progressive DA, as the most progressive AG. And that's going to hurt her with these swing voters. It's going to hurt her within her own party. Her own party. People that you saw there, those are the cults. That's the cultish group. The same way that you see the people at the Republican National Convention, they're following the little cult. And that's what they do. Those people are going to vote that party no matter what. It's the people that aren't not showing up there. Those are the ones that are going to define your voting base. For some reason, the Democrats last night had something about party size that they wanted to talk about. They were the only ones concerned with it. Polling reveals that voters' views of Harris have shifted rapidly in the months since Biden stepped aside and she became the only nominee. Just 39% of Americans said they had a favorable opinion of her, and poll said they didn't know enough to say. But that's a poll. Polls are skewed. After Biden stepped aside, their poll found that 48% of Americans had a favorable opinion. Don't care about polls. Really, because polls are skewed, especially if they're coming from from anything about the AP. Polls are going to be skewed. Do people know her? Are people aware of her? I can be excited, but I still want more. So does she. She'll take as much as you can give her. Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, which has endorsed Harris as a self-described policy geek, but she said the past Democrat efforts to outline detailed policy agendas failed to garner much attraction with the voters. Really? Are you saying that voters don't want policy? So you're telling me that voters want to be broke? They want their country overrun with illegals? They don't want jobs? They don't want that safety and security? They don't want the policy, is what she's saying. She's insisting that what matters most is a candidate's values. Well, what values does Camel Toe have? I don't see any values there. The party's 2016 Hillary Clinton, for example, produced more than 24 policy papers exceeding 50,000 words with hundreds of detailed footnotes. Trump had virtually no detailed agenda that year, and Clinton lost. Son, are you stupid? because that's not true. He showed what his policy was. The problem is Hillary Clinton was such a horrible person because she destroyed servers with emails on them. Emails that were hacked. She lost an ambassador in another country under her watch. The amount of damage that she caused while she was acting, was Secretary of State? Under her watch, the amount of problems that she caused, the policies that she put forward were so horrible that we would have been at war with Ukraine. Well, we would have seen the war in Ukraine with Russia much sooner. We would have seen a war in the Middle East much sooner. We would have lost more troops in Afghanistan. We would have lost more troops in various other countries around the world where she would have been in. And of course, they used to do 10-point plans. They weren't even satisfied with 5-point plans. I think that's not where Americans are. Well, see, the problem is your 10-point plans are no different than the communist 10-point plans. Whereas if you asked Trump at the time what his policies were, it was to secure the border, drill, baby, drill. Bring back American manufacturing. End the wars in foreign countries. These proxy wars that are going on. Stop it, Shizzy. What does it matter? The guy was already dead. I don't like anyone who isn't truthful. If she were the best person to lead our country, then I would vote for her. She's an embarrassment to all professional working women. Very true. Changed your white. Oh, look, these media polls next week to their story. Get along with the party line. You get on the party line now. Harris so far has released only of the taste of the plans. Well, that was just because she didn't swallow that she spit. She would pursue as president. Convention delegates did not update the party's formal platform to reflect her wishes. In some cases, the document still references Biden's second term. Yeah, because it is. It is still Biden's second term. Good morning, Captain Kirk. Good morning. Some details have begun to come out. Well, and that's because it dribbled down her chin. Last week, Harris has outlined a plan for her first 100 days to send Congress proposed federal limits on price increases. Wait. What? Price increases for food producers and grocers. What? That's not good. Like, I guess this is their bottom-up approach. I guess that makes sense, that you would destroy the economy even further. Okay. She also pledges to make permanent $3,600 per child tax credit approved through 2025. But you could do this right now. Why have you not done this right now? Your first 100 days, what about the last 100 days that you could have enacted these things and sent those to Congress? Why did you not do it before? Why have you not taken care of this before now? You've got a president right there that could have done all of this and had it done before the election. Why? Because they don't plan on doing it. They're going to tell you one thing and do another. This is how they do. F the empty nesters on a fixed income. They can starve. Old Rosie. Good morning. Good morning, Amimo's girl. Good morning. Oh, yes. She's also pledged to make permanent this tax credit for eligible families while offering a new $6,000 tax credit for those with newborn children. But some details, as she's calling for the construction of 3 million new tiny homes in 4 years, along with expanding Biden's administration plan to provide $25,000 in potential down payment assistance to help some renters buy homes. So she wants to create another housing crash. Did they not learn? You're making me smile this morning. Awesome. Thanks, Bear Dan. Glad to see. Additionally, Harris wants to speed up a Biden administration effort that allowed Medicare and other federal programs to negotiate with drug makers. Why have you not done this before? You're going to do all of this in your first 100 days, but yet you've failed to do this in the past 3.5 years. Most commonly used drugs. Wait, but you're not telling the whole story, because those most commonly used drugs are only for seniors. Because the 40 to 80% starting in 2026. Why starting in 2026? Why not right now? Why would you have to negotiate with drug companies? Well, because drug companies are the ones that are paying your bills. And by then, if you're cutting it 40 to 60% with seniors, those seniors are already going to be deceased. They're already going to be broke. So, and the cost, all they do is they rise it over the next few years going into 2026. They increase those costs by anywhere from 90 to 100%. So whenever you get that 40 to 60%, you're still, you're still about, well, it made no change at all. The decrease doesn't matter because, well, you've got your senior voters that think they're getting a deal now, which they're not. And it's only for the seniors. How is that gonna help out, the working mom of little Jenny, that little Jenny has, some serious cancer, but the drugs that she has to take to, help her, heal cost 300% more than what it did whenever she started, breeding. Oh, I mean, that $6,000 tax credit really helps out for newborn. What about the rest of their life? I mean, come on. Trump's campaign has been focusing on the lack of specifics from her campaign and her refusal to sit down for media interviews. Well, yeah, because how can you debate somebody if you don't know what they stand for? All you have is their prior record, and her prior record shows that she's lied, cheated, sucked her way to the top. I mean, if that's the only record that you have and she hasn't laid down any sort of platform, then what else are you going to do? Point out the obvious. At Trump's rally in Asheboro, North Carolina this week, the 69-year-old assistant plant manager Jerry Zimmerman broke into a smile when asked about the Republican nominee's prospect for November, but he also protected it would be a lot harder to defeat Harris than Biden. Of course. Because if Republicans do what they've been doing for the past, several elections, you get the voters that come out the day of voting, that sign their name on the dotted line, that don't do the mail-in ballots, that count their votes as they come in. I'm telling you, hold off on counting those ballots until all of the blue states have put in their votes. Just wait. Wait and see what they're going to do. Wait until New York is done casting their votes. Wait until California is done casting their votes. All across the board, hold off, much as you can. Just let a little bit trickle in there. Get coordinated. Let a little bit trickle in here, a little bit trickle in there. Oh my God, it looks like President Biden is going to win this. Oh, Camel Toe is going to win this one. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so beautiful. And then after New York has turned them all in at 1 o'clock in the morning, turn all your votes in. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Start turning those votes in. You know, the wee hours of the morning, let them start counting them. That's what the Democrats did last election cycle, and the election cycle before that, and the election cycle before that. Colorado's expected to turn red again, so happy. Well, hopefully. Good luck. Good morning, Connie Carlson. Nowhere not. Social Security increases. Go to increases on Medicare. You can only be grateful when I have retirement benefits. I really feel for those who do not eat or get med or roof over your family's head. Well, good luck. Good luck. That right there is all I can say. Because if you've got, say for example, you've got a pension with a company, if that company goes bankrupt and tanks, disappears, guess what happens to your pension? Do you think your pension gets saved? Or maybe they get sold to another company and that company goes bankrupt. Do you think that pension is there? I mean, this is the biggest problem that you run into with your 401k. Tell me, how is your 401k doing this year? Is it increased? I mean, if you're able to increase it, if you're not having to put food on your table, then you might be able to increase it. Maybe it just stays about the same as it was before. Possibly those investments on. If they can prove everything went fair, he'll be cool with it, Zimmer said. In a potential Harris victory, I think a lot of people would be cool with the outcome. Yeah. If it's fair. If it's not like it was in Arizona. 41,000 votes that never should have been. There's little time to change course. Meanwhile, the compressed election timeline gives both candidates little time to dramatically change course. Why would you need to? Early voting begins in Pennsylvania, arguably the nation's most important swing state, on September 16th. By the end of September, voting will be underway in North Carolina. The final votes will be cast on Election Day, November 5th. And like I said, don't turn any of your ballots in. Wait. Hold off until the Election Day. Hold off until the last minute. Let them get their hopes up, thinking they've got this in the bag. 218,000 votes in Georgia. Don't know what you're talking about. Meanwhile, the compressed election timeline gives them both. Television ad space has already been booked as well. Between Friday and Election Day, Republicans will spend more than $120 million on television advertising. And Harris has reserved more than $270 million in ads. And as much as they say much of the investment will focus on attacking Harris, what do you think that Harris's campaign is going to be doing? Are they going to be focusing on defining her? Or do you think that the only defining act that they have is to say how Orange Man bad? Still, Michelle Obama, who cares about Michelle Obama, predicted it could be a rocky road to Election Day, warning that Harris's team is sure to make plenty of mistakes. She encouraged Democrats remain focused on the work needed to defeat Trump. The minute something goes wrong, the minute a lie takes hold, folks, we cannot start wringing our hands. What? We cannot get a Goldilocks complex about whether everything is just right. Really. And we cannot indulge our anxieties about whether this country will elect someone like Camel Toe instead of doing everything we can to get someone like Camel Toe elected. That's how they want to do this. Because they're already predicting something's going to go wrong. They're going to get caught in a lie. They're going to get caught doing really bad things. The minute she tries to define herself, thing is, if Trump wins, great, but it will take 12 years, not 4, to rebuild what we have lost in income and savings. So this election, as critical as it is, it's not as critical as the next 2 cycles. Damn right, Risa. But on the other hand, it is critical because if Camel Toe is elected, it's going to take even longer to get back. As critical as it doesn't sound, if she's elected, which I have no doubt that there will be some shenanigans that happen, because she's got the backing of the media. The media will make it appear that she's doing absolutely great. Any lie is not going to be brought forward. You know, here's the thing. It was not too long after Biden got a coup on him there in his election, that all the stuff about Hunter came out that it's actually true. Oh my God. Amazing how that works. The things that the media will repress, the lies that they will tell you are all you have to do is look at the AP fact focus, a look back at the false and misleading claims that made during the DNC. Oh, what was it? Well, this is the problem. The way that they word these things. Because they've got Democrats trying to define what Trump is, which it's not true. Because this had nothing to do with Democrats. All they were focused on was Trump. Imagine if Trump dropped out and endorsed J.D. Vance for president. Like, imagine that. Imagine if Trump came out this week after, or waits until. Would it be even better if he does it right after the first debate? Right after the first debate, Trump comes out and says, "You know what? I just can't. I can't. Here, I've got it for you.
I just can't continue on. I have to move forward. I decided I'm going to drop out. I'm going to pass my nomination on to JD, and I'm going to be there for him the best I can, but I just can't carry through with my current status. I know it was a great status. I know I was doing wonderful things. I was doing so well, and it was the best campaign, the biggest donors. We were the best that there ever was."
Yeah, imagine him dropping out last minute. Oh my God. Because JD's already shown what he's all about. Thong, 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 thong. I think we were already there, Captain. Thought Zach would have caught that first. I can see lawsuits upon lawsuits if Kamala Harris wins because of the nomination without delegates issue. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. what I would love to see that. I'd love to see Trump do that. I know he's not going to do it, but it would be hilarious as all get out, because they would scramble so hard. They would have no means of attack, because everything's been about Trump's view. It's been an attack on Trump, not defining themselves on what they view, because they say that Trump would ban medication, abortion, and enact nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. That's, like I said, not true. He said it's back in the states where it belongs. That's all he had to say. And he was asked by a reporter whenever he was in Atlanta, would you sign a national abortion ban? He said no. And they asked him again on a national abortion ban. He said no. He said it's in the state's hands where it belongs. He's never wanted anything to do. He disagrees with abortion, but as far as that is up to the states, let it go back to the states. Trump and Project 2025. This was something that was not just for Jason Crow. Donald Trump's 2025 project would abandon our troops, abandon our veterans and allies with our principles. All of this right here was a common theme throughout all of the DNC over the past 4 days. That was their theme. And everyone keeps talking about it. He's repeatedly said, I know nothing about this. It was the same thing that they did with Russia. Project 2025, Project 2025, Project 25, whatever the hell they want to call it. He says, hey, I don't agree with any of it. And he doesn't care, but they still keep trying to tie him to it. And, it's just like more about 2025. No. It's all a lie. It's made up bullshit. There you go. There's your fact checking. Trump's alleged comments about those kids. What about your comments? This one right here. This is the thing about what they wanted to say. Senator Mark Kelly, Trump thinks that Americans who have made the ultimate sacrifice are suckers and losers. And this right here is not true. There were people there, and they've said that is not true. The person that made that claim was a liar, because they were never even there whenever this supposed claim was made. So why do they keep putting this out there? Because that sells stories. Walz's accomplishments as governor. What does Walz have to do with anything? I mean, because he's going to be second in command, that, he's got stolen valor. Talking about assistant coach Walz. Senator Amy Klobuchar, whatever. Touting Tim Walz's accomplishments as governor of the state. Tim has delivered paid leave, school lunches, and the biggest tax cut in Minnesota history. Well, yeah, he signed legislation to create paid medical leave, free school breakfasts and lunches, but Walz also signed a tax cut. But here's the thing. Center for American Experiment and Conservative Think Tank points out the low-income Minnesotans don't pay state income tax, so its view giving them tax credit amounts to income redistribution welfare, not tax cuts. But what does that have to do with anything? Men are simple. Just takes one small typo and they get their engines revving. Yeah. Mark Kelly is a Democrat sellout. Exactly. Do what I can. Do what I can. Always do what I can. Former President Bill Clinton on Wednesday. Since the end of the Civil Cold War in 1989, America has created 59 million new jobs. I swear I checked this 3 times. Even I couldn't believe it. What's the score? Democrats 50, Republicans 1. Well, he's technically right, but the underlying story is more nuanced. There were 4 recessions since the end of the Cold War, each one of them beginning during the Republicans' presidency of Bush and Donald Trump. That's the simplest explanation for the trend outlined by Clinton. But, they don't take into account Ronald Reagan. And they also don't take into account the past 3.5 years. Yeah. After George Bush endured a brief downturn, the economy recovered and 2.3 million jobs were added during his term, but America still felt the economy was poor and elected Clinton. Growth jumped during Clinton's 8 years as more women entered the labor force and 22.9 million jobs were added. That means they made new jobs. Baby, what's up? What is up? Good morning, y'all. Happy Risa Thong Day. Love it. Risa needs a good thong day. Risa, happy Thong Day. Growth jumped during Clinton's 8 years. Barack Obama inherited the disastrous economy in early 2009, endured a grindingly slow but successful recovery. U.S. economy added 11.3 million jobs. We did. And of course, what they talk about here, which is really interesting, that the economy recovered 2.3 million jobs were added during this term. And what they say here is that Trump, the job market continued to build on its health during Obama's final 4 years, but they don't talk about the years after George W. Bush, that it says, oh, Clinton created that. Or maybe he rode the backs of it. It was a typo. Uh-huh. I like the idea of Risa in the thong for Thong Day. It can be a typo, sweetheart, but we know. Risa doesn't wear tidy whities. She doesn't wear the granny panties. It's all about the thong with Risa. Just saying. It's okay. It's okay, Risa. We understand. It was a typo. Stop it. Stop picking on me. Well, how many of the created jobs the past 3 years were taxpayer-funded jobs? I would say about 30 million. We know for certain that there was something, what was it, like 5,000 IRS agents were hired? Why were those 5,000 agents hired? To go after the millionaires and the billionaires. Whether Trump said women should be punished for having abortions. Again, does this matter? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's not anything of what he said. 98% of Comey's speech was gaslighting, lies, good to go, to education, to peer appointments. Oh, you got to go. Got to go. You have. Oh, got to go. Adieu. Exit. Appointment. See y'all later. Education. Exit. Well, Heidi, you have a wonderful day. I'm so glad you could come by and hang out for a little bit. That's a wonderful thing. It is an absolute wonderful thing. I'm so happy to have you here. Just so much to see. So much to see. So much to do. Oh my God. Yes. Today's the 23rd. And they haven't updated anything about what's going on in Ukraine. Isn't that really weird? Doesn't anybody find that interesting that they haven't said anything about what's going on? As I said, it is one of those things where Camel Toe's racial and cultural firsts were on stage throughout the DNC. Oh, it's always the first. Who cares if it was a typo? The damage is done. Exactly. We love it. Texter Pansy, my biceps had to help out. Lame. Just remember, 12 out of the last 16 years were controlled by Democrat presidents, but it's all Trump's fault. Exactly. Exactly. And I'm not seeing, here's the thing. They're really quiet on the front after that disastrous DNC. They've really been quiet. That's all under the table business. They don't talk about that. Yeah. It is going to be one of the most divisive elections that we have coming up, because it's going to become, any time that Trump says anything about Camel Toe, it's going to be, oh, it's because she's a woman. Oh, it's because she's blackish, Asian-ish, something. It's going to be because it's all Trump's fault. It's all Trump's fault. Everything bad happening is bad Trump, bad Trump. Because that's all they have to attack on. And that's all they do is attack. And Trump has been very can I attack them now? Really? Can I at least defend myself? And they say, no, just stick to talking about the policy. Stick to the policy. Don't go on the attack. You're going to do it anyway, but lessen the amount that you're doing. And you'll find that they've got they're all of their attacks are falling shy, because it'll come up again. Russia. Oh, he's in bed with Russia. Oh, yes. It's all about Russia. It's not. I mean, you could easily say that they're in bed with Ukraine. Democrats have been in bed with Ukraine since Hunter Biden. Oh, that's right. That's what it was. The illegal stuff that was going on in Ukraine with Burisma, China, human trafficking, prostitutes, drugs. What other kind of illegal things are we talking about that they were going on inside the White House? What about currently? What's currently going on inside the White House? Who's at the helm of our country right now? Who's driving us towards prosperous United States? Well, it sure isn't our current president. He's too angry at Trump. He's probably a little salty that he had a coup on him. That dang Trump in bed with Russia, passing prostitutes and grabbing all the pussy cats. Yeah. But that has nothing to do with it. On the night she became the first Asian woman. Yeah, she's totally Asian. Speaking of Asian, my favorite Asian is right here. Man, the myth, the legend.
Hello, hello.
Hello. How are you?
No, Max is your favorite Asian, not me.
Oh, Max is awesome. Max is awesome.
Oh my
What is
God.
going on this morning, brother?
Dude, I got so pissed off watching that last night. Just lie after lie after lie after lie. It was just grating on my nerves.
Is that why you want to come on last night?
Oh, no, I knew I didn't need to come on last night. That was the problem.
Oh, I was having so much fun because I would do this every so often. Just
You told some of the biggest lies that I've ever heard of in my whole life.
You know you're a liar.
That's not true, Jack. You're a liar!
Liar!
all night long.
My favorite's the Anakin one.
Yes.
Liar!
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm surprised that the media hasn't hammered home more on, wow, look how strong she was. Look how emboldened she was. She come off like a damn lunatic.
Yes. Yes.
She come off like a raging lunatic. And here's part of the problem. The Democrats are trying to play the game from the Trump of 2016.
Yep.
And Trump has already pivoted to, no, I'm just going to talk about policy and I'm going to, I might take a shot here or there, but for the most part, I'm just going to point out how full of crap they are.
Exactly. Oh, and it's like let them not talk about policy because apparently that is the Democrats' plan, because they even said it. They were just like, well, Hillary Clinton had her 10-point policy. We narrowed it down to like a 5-point policy, but it was typical Marxist policy that they were throwing out there.
Well, and here's, like you had said before, here's the thing that really hinders her. She has a record. She's not a candidate that's fresh and new and starting out. She has a record. She's tied to Biden. She's tied to her time as an attorney general in California. Everybody knows what. Yeah, everybody knows what she is.
Yeah. As the one that's been there, being breaking the tie-breaking vote, the one that took all that income away from those tip earners.
Yep.
That wanted to put a tax on them that increased the amount that they were going to be taxed. She's the one that signed it in. And now they're sitting there going, oh no, forget all about that. She's going to help you. Right.
Notice they haven't mentioned it since.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever since she came out and made that statement, everybody's like, wait a minute, you're the one that cast the tie-breaking vote in order for the IRS to go after people, the taxes with tips.
Yes.
She hasn't said a word about it since, and neither had the Democrats.
Yep. Well, and but they've switched. Oh, well, she's going to increase the tax credit.
Well,
like I said, if Trump came out tomorrow and he made just some wild thing that he was going to do, we're going to shut down all the bases in Europe. She would go, well, we're going to shut down all the bases in Europe, and we're going to do it faster.
Right.
I mean, like, just whatever Trump says, we're going to do it faster. We're going to do it quicker. We're going to do it better.
Right.
Just like, oh my God, this is their policy is basically copying anything that Trump says, except we're going to do it faster.
And here's the thing I would encourage people to do, whether you're right, left, middle, whatever. Go back and do your own research on what these people say. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Kamala, whatever. Do your own research. Go back and look at the articles. And the one thing in particular I can think of is, they're coming out saying, oh, we want to increase the child tax credit. Okay. Everybody loves it. Sounds good. Well, Trump had said that he was going to do that weeks ago. And there was an article that came out that said, well, fiscally, how is he going to be able to do this? When Kamala comes out and says it, they're like, oh, this is such a wonderful plan, such a wonderful idea.
I actually have that particular. I have that particular one. I'll show you guys just so you can sort of get an idea of what he's talking about here. Open this here. Then we go here. And this is brought to you by the wonderful people over at the Babylon Bee. Okay. That's why it's so interesting. Is check this out.
Let's play a game, shall we? Let's take identical or nearly identical policy positions, attribute them to candidates of different political persuasions, and then see if how our legacy media reports on them tells us anything about their integrity as journalists.
Oh yeah.
Back in June, here's how CBS News reported on Donald Trump's plan to end taxes on servers' tips. Former President Donald Trump's vow to stop taxing tips would cost the federal government up to $250 billion over 10 years, according to a nonpartisan watchdog group. And now here's that same CBS, same network, reporting 2 months later, Vice President Kamala Harris is rolling out a new policy position, saying she'll fight to end taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. Same policy, but Trump is going to cost the government billions. Kamala is going to fight for service and hospitality workers.
There's one. Now watch the next one.
I wonder why the different framing. Not to mention, Harris made a big deal bragging about casting the tie-breaking vote to allow the IRS to specifically crack down on underreported tips from waitresses and waiters. She said she was proud to do so. Yes, CBS didn't have room in that headline to point out that Kamala Harris is going to fight on behalf of waiters and waitresses against what Kamala Harris has done. Meanwhile, over at CNBC last week, that outlet was concerned about something J.D. Vance was up to. Vance wants to raise the child tax credit to $5,000. Here's why that could be difficult. Exactly 4 days later, here's that exact same network, CNBC, talking about a genius idea coming from Kamala Harris. Harris calls for expanded child tax credit of up to $6,000 for families with newborns. Got it? If a Republican wants to raise the tax credit to $5,000, that's going to be difficult on all of us. But if you're a Democrat wanting to raise the tax credit to $6,000, no problem. See, at NBC, that's different. Meanwhile, you've got the New Yorker out there running a story, taking up space in their publication to tell the country about how J.D. Vance's mamaw and papaw, that is his grandma and grandpa, had a, quote, deeply troubled marriage. Kamala Harris's husband impregnated his child's teacher during his first marriage. Tim Walz has been caught in decades-long
Yeah, you heard that, right?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I found the technical problem in the child credit argument. Here it is. So Trump and Vance want to extend the tax credit for children up to $5,000, right?
Yes.
Kamala wants to extend it to $6,000 for newborns.
Only newborns.
Well, since they want to encourage getting rid of babies, that means it's less.
Yeah. Amazing, how isn't it?
Yeah. There you go.
Exactly. But only for newborns.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's on newborns. Well, if you have less newborns coming in, you're not having to pay out as much.
True. That is true. So I guess it wouldn't harm the economy as much, right?
Exactly.
This is so funny. Whenever I saw that, had deeply troubled marriage, and Vance praises them for sticking it out, but records show that they entered divorce proceedings twice, but they still stuck it out.
Yeah, were they still married?
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to counseling over having a troubled marriage. Does it take away from the fact that you had a troubled marriage and went to counseling? No, but at the same time, if you stayed married, maybe that means the counseling worked.
Yeah.
Troubled marriage. Kamala Harris's husband impregnated his child's teacher
Kamala Harris's husband
Yep.
impregnated his child's teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but we don't see that kid on DNC night, do we?
No. Why would you
Nope.
do that?
Nope.
Coy is like, what? Oh, you didn't know this? Here, let me play it again so you can hear. So you can hear exactly what they said.
Deeply troubled marriage. Kamala Harris's husband impregnated his child's teacher during his first marriage.
Now do you understand? This is Babylon B. Or not the B. You could
This
always
is this is
find 'em.
not the B where they actually spit out facts as opposed to parody.
correct. Hopefully that would get an A. Yeah.
Well, he obviously failed sex ed because he doesn't know where babies come from.
Obviously. He doesn't know what a woman is until he puts it in there.
Oh, you got pregnant?
How'd that happen?
Tim Walz has been caught in decades-long examples of stolen valor, a crime punishable by prison, and it's now being discovered and uncovered how deeply intertwined he has been with communist China. It's now
Ooh.
Here's my thing that I keep pushing. Actually, he's had stolen valor twice.
Yes.
First was with his military record. The second is everybody else going around calling him coach. He was an assistant coach. To me, that's stolen valor too.
Well, details. These things don't matter in the Democrat Party.
They act like he was the head coach that led the team to the state championship. He was an assistant.
Exactly. He fell into her naked. It happens. Yeah.
He slipped, he tripped, and fell into her. It happens.
Yeah.
now accepted that Hunter Biden used the U.S.
Hunter Biden sought State Department help for Ukrainian company after President Biden dropped his re-election bid. His administration released records showing that while he was vice president, his son solicited U.S. government assistance.
No surprise.
State Department to try to influence a deal for Burisma. But the media is out there covering the fact that Mamaw and Papaw Vance filed for divorce a couple times. So look, you can keep fighting this nonsense if you want, but my best suggestion, choose to start getting your news from seemingly the only bastion of true free speech left in the media universe, and that's X.com. Oh yeah, there's incredibly dumb stuff that floats around there in that space, but it's also the only place where the sane among us can call out the ignorance with the truth. It's pretty clear we don't have any mainstream journalists who are capable or willing to do that themselves.
Yeah.
And here's the bad part about the mainstream media is that they can go out there and they can make a statement everybody pays attention to.
Yes.
And yes, later they can go back and they can retract it, but nobody pays attention to that. They just see the headline.
Exactly. And that is that. And also, whenever, here's the thing. I was going to show this DNC versus RNC, two convention speeches, two different messages. But the only problem with this particular MSNBC thing is they're going to severely edit out any of the good talking points that the RNC had. They're going to focus on things that don't really matter. Like, to tell you the truth, if you're looking at voters, how many voters out there are more concerned with what the Democrats like to call women's reproductive rights, or are they more concerned with what is in their pocket?
Right.
I mean, let's even dial that back for on the list of things that people are, your general population. Do you think people are more concerned with abortion or immigration? Do you think people are more concerned with abortion or the cost of food or the cost of schooling, the cost of raising a family, the cost of buying a home, the cost of their gas. On that list of things, where do you think abortion falls?
Well, the problem with the abortion argument is the abortion argument only affects certain people. The economy, the fact that groceries are up 30%, the fact that inflation is up 20% affects everyone.
Right. And see, if and you know, not to say, you know, anything about women's reproductive health here, but the point is it only affects one gender. And that gender encapsulates a certain age group. Okay?
Yep.
Because before that would be really sick. And after that, it would be impossible. So you've got this small section that the Democrats seem to be focused on, just like you said, this little portion, this little bit of people that it could possibly affect one way or the other.
Well,
as compared to the, you know, getting your food, that affects even those people.
And I'll go a step further. Stop saying that abortion is a part of women's health care.
Oh,
it's not.
No, because
stop pushing that lie. That is not women's health care.
No.
It is a completely separate thing.
Yes.
We're not talking about women going into their gynecologist and, you know, having their pap smears and this, that, and the other. What is a completely separate subset that only affects those who, well, I mean, let's face it, don't know where babies come from.
Yes.
And here's the other thing that aggravates me. Back when Reagan was in office, some of y'all remember, some of y'all don't. Reagan said that he was against abortion, except in the case of rape, incest, or the life of the mother.
Yes.
Trump has specifically come out and said that he adopts those same principles.
Yep.
But yet they continue this lie that Trump is going to sign a nationwide abortion ban.
Yeah.
That's not true. He left it up to the states to decide for themselves. He said people have to decide for themselves. My principles are this.
Yes.
Rape, incest, life of the mother. Those are my principles.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a man that believes that say, well, I'm going to put a total abortion ban? First of all, it would never fly. Here's the other thing. These people that are running for president, you cannot make things law. You're not Congress. You're not Congress. No. He can't put in a nationwide abortion ban. He's not Congress.
He can't even do an executive order because that would be shot down by the Supreme Court so damn quick.
Exactly.
Like
because let's say he did it. You don't think the Democrats wouldn't already know that he was planning on doing this and already had the lawsuits ready and waiting?
Oh, yeah.
That's how politics operates.
They would have his impeachment papers written up immediately. And the thing is if the Democrats are so worried about this abortion issue, for the past 3.5 years, they've done nothing to cure it. You think in the next, 3.5, 4 years that they're going to do anything again? Not it.
No.
But they will take away your pew-pews. You notice that's something that they haven't been talking about.
Yeah, it's awful funny that the Democrats have completely sidestepped that.
Yeah, they've completely sidestepped. Here's the thing. DNC completely sidestepped the pew-pews, the Second Amendment.
Yep.
They've completely sidestepped the gay rights.
Yep.
I mean, whenever I say they completely sidestepped it, that was not part of their prime time talking point.
They have thrown that in the toilet.
Their entire if you watched it yesterday, the thing that they've never done at any of their other conventions ever, never have they done at any of their conventions, has been shouting USA, USA, because that was a big Trump rallying call.
Right.
But they had to adopt it, man. They were just like, we are going to get hammered if we don't start doing this. Like,
that's been the moniker of the right for decades. Is patriotism, is pride in America. I mean, for crying out loud, you had the left wanting people to take down their American flags.
Yeah, because the first thing that I'm seeing right here, whenever I opened up the morning edition of the New York Times, the first thing, and I'm not going to show it because it's in my email box, because if I try to click on it, it wants me to subscribe or some crap.
Yeah.
It says USA, USA, in exclamation marks. Kamala Harris capped her first month at the Democrats Party's presidential candidate with roughly 35-minute convention speech last night that embodied her aggressive efforts to win over swing voters. It was a patriotic speech that was hawkish on foreign policy and border security. It wasn't.
I find it laughable for her to try to say that she's all for border security. What have you done for 3.5 years? Borders are?
Nothing.
Nothing.
What about your foreign policy? Because you have done nothing on foreign policy either. Your foreign policy has created a deficit of funds going to a war that nobody wants to have happen.
Well, and she knows these foreign leaders so well that they completely snubbed Netanyahu when he came to the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. They met with him in private.
Oh, sure they did. And nobody could see that.
Exactly. Because I guarantee you it wasn't a good conversation.
Well, of course not.
More than likely, Netanyahu, whenever he sat down with Biden, if he did sit down with Biden, was just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
There is something wrong with this guy. Like, he is not altogether there.
Yeah.
And then he had to deal with Camel Toe, which I'm sure Camel Toe was just like, oh, look, my husband's Jewish also. Cackle, 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 cackle.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and we also didn't see the conversation that Netanyahu had with Trump.
That's true.
But
at least they released the details of the conversation.
Right.
They didn't do that with Biden or Kamala.
You know why? Because they don't support Israel. They have to because they're allies. Because there would be so many people up in their grill if they didn't. But do you think that you're going to see any support going to Israel over this? Only what they have to do.
What I really love was her watching her walk the line, saying, Israel must be able to defend itself. However,
yes. Oh, however. Oh, that was it. That was the biggest thing right there. However, we need to have a ceasefire to end this horrible war against Gaza.
The only reason that she called Hamas a terrorist organization is because she was told to by her advisors.
Yes. If she wouldn't have done that, they would have been all over that.
Oh yeah.
Today.
It'd have been like, so she is anti-Israel.
She is.
Yeah. But exactly.
Because those protesters that were protesting the DNC, they were there protesting because they weren't allowed to speak.
Right.
Because they had been in talks with them. They had been in talks with the DNC. And the DNC knew that if they let them come in there and speak, oh my God. The hellfire that would have rained down upon the DNC, they would have immediately like dropped in the polls. Like even worse than they currently did.
Hey, and let's face it, when you pay $6 billion to Iran, you can call Hamas whatever you want to.
Yeah. Well, you did finally get to Europe. Oh, Europe. Who versus what? Harris has surged in the polls, erasing Biden's deficit. They gain a small lead over Trump. That is not true at all.
Now, there was a 7-point swing during the Democrat convention. They said that Harris was up by 2, and now she's down by 5. Well, after today's announcement, she's going to be down even more.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, you talking about Powell's announcement?
No, I'm talking about RFK Jr.'s announcement.
Oh yeah. They're trying to they're going hard against RFK.
Well, of course they are.
But here within the next half hour, guess who's going to be speaking at the Fed?
Who?
Jerome Powell.
Huh.
And I'm going to play it live. Serious. Because whenever you hear what Jerome Powell has to say, you are going to you watch what the markets do. Because you see it is 9:30 right now. And I guarantee you, if you look at the markets right now, the markets are stalled. They're probably doing absolutely nothing. There'll be some jumps here and there.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm not gonna pull up my my stock holdings at all, which I could do right now, but I'm not doing that. Let me see. Where is it? I'm gonna actually look and see what it's doing, just to see. Let's see what it's been doing. Yep, it is completely stalled.
Yep.
Like it's up, but it's stalled. I'm watching it right now in real time. There's a couple of things that dropped a little bit overnight, but other than that, pretty much everything is like this steady, like, and depending on what Powell comes out and says, you're either going to see a drastic dump or a drastic increase. It is going to get crazy. Yeah, in 30 minutes, 46 seconds, at 10 o'clock in the morning, Jerome Powell is going to come out and he's going to be talking on economic outlook.
Yep, that's going to be interesting. Especially in light of the employment numbers dropping by 1 million.
Yeah. Oh, they said, it was 818,000. No, it was over 1 million.
Right.
They're trying to softball it because whenever Powell comes out, they are going to have what's going to hit them is going to just go there. People are going to go, oh crap. What just happened? What just happened? It's going to get insane. Hey, Heidi, what did you miss? Volstorm got naked and we deleted that portion out. So there's a little skip in there.
I was only mostly naked.
Only mostly. Well, okay. Technical, but you missed it. You missed it, Heidi. It's too late. Even if you go back and rewind, you'll never find it.
Yep.
We have a way of erasing those things. So all of chat got to see it except for you.
Yeah. Much like Kamala Harris's record, we've deleted it.
Yeah. She hasn't been able to do that. Crap. Holy crap. What in the hell?
What?
Oh, man. I've got to rewind this. Oh, give me just a second. This is happening right now. Oh.
Ew.
Holy cow. Here, let me mute that so you don't have to hear that annoying sound.
Thank you.
Oh, this isn't good.
Another train derailment.
What in the hell did they hit? Was it? It couldn't have been two trains colliding. Oh, maybe it was. That's an engine right there.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times those trains they'll have two engines on there. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
not unusual.
but there's cars on this. They usually don't have an engine in the middle of the pack, though.
No, they're usually one right in front of the other.
Yeah. No, these are cars that are over here and cars that are over here. This looks like two engines collided.
Oh, jeez.
Holy cow. Now, let me see if I can speed this up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Oh my God. Yeah. Train crash in Boulder, Colorado. Jesus. Well, at least it doesn't look like there's anything except for fuel. Yeah, it looks like two engines collided.
Yep.
From this right here.
That's exactly what happened.
And it's a possibility maybe one of them was stopped and the other one collided with it. Ooh. Ooh, yeah, they got the truck out there to spray down any fuel that might be leaking.
Yep.
These big old diesels carry a lot of fuel.
Yeah, a lot.
Almighty. How far back does this go? Yeah, I hope everyone is okay in this. I mean, this is unreal. See if we can move it forward a little bit. Looks like they're just circling. Where was this? I mean, where exactly? Sorry if it making you dizzy, I apologize. Live aerials from Boulder, Colorado crash. Okay, so there's the train tracks. So where exactly is it in correlation to this? Okay, you're making me dizzy here, brother. All right. Oh, geez, Louise. At least they're trying to move train out of the way. That's rough right there. No, I just happened to see this in my feed. I was like, holy crap, there's been a train crash in Boulder. Oh my gosh. Yeah, those are side booms. I've operated one of those side boom tractors before. It's basically this here is it's basically a bulldozer that they usually will take the front blade off of it and they have counterweights on one side of it. Then they'll have a crane on the other side, so you can pick up pipes, move them. You can pick up train rails and all that kind of stuff. That's the train that roughly passed through your town roughly 3 hours before the crash. Yeah, this is in Boulder.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sure Buttigieg is right on it.
Well, you know, he does like to get, you know, his meat dirty.
Yeah, he's more of a caboose man than he is an engine.
You know. Tug, pull, whatever.
Jeez.
Yes, this is bad. Yeah, they're trying to get these that looks like could be coal.
Let's see. Yeah.
Could be coal, could be potash, could be gravel of some sort. But yeah, they're basically going to hook those things on there and pick them up and put them back on.
Yeah.
It's funny. Look what it says. Bitch can. Like, that's what it looks like. Bitch con. That's what, maybe bitch con. No. I love the graffiti on the side of trains. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Any word on cause? No. I just saw this like live aerials. I don't know if they've got any. Yeah, right now it's just these are just aerials, so we don't know what the cause of this was. But it looks like two engines collided, going opposite directions. That's what it appears to be, because you can see they've got cars on this side of the tracks on one going one way, and you got cars going the other way, and you got two engines laying there. Well, multiple engines all over the place. Damn. That is just scary. Like I said, I hope that everybody's okay. Because you get something that big, people don't realize how big a train engine actually is until you get up close. You're like, that's a heavy son of a buck. Gosh. We'll go ahead and I'll keep that in the background and see if there's anything developing on. That's crazy. Oh, what did we got here? Oh. What is this? Oh, this is good. Oh.
By remembering our fallen officers. We've lost our 5th law enforcement officer this year. Deputy Brandon Cunningham with the Paulding County Sheriff's Office will be laid to rest this afternoon, who gave the last full measure of devotion to his community and state. Please pray for his children and family, for his fiance, for his community, and for their department as they struggle with this unimaginable loss. And as we are here this morning, Deputy Taylor Bristow from the Carroll County Sheriff's Office is right up the road at Grady Hospital battling for his life. It has never been more difficult to serve as a first responder and specifically a law enforcement officer. And in Georgia, we unapologetically back the blue and support the men and women who serve us in uniform. Today, we are here, though, to talk about the findings for the Fulton County Jail Subcommittee. You've gotten a copy of the draft report, and the reason why it is a draft report is because due to our Senate rules, when we return to legislative session in January, we will formally adopt that report. However, we didn't want any more time to lapse, so the recommendations that were put together could be enacted and further steps of remediation could take place. Let's begin by the reason why we formed this committee. Back last year, we all watched with great concern at some of the tragedies that had been unfolding at the Fulton County Jail. Senator Robertson and I went and visited the jail and made sure that what we were seeing on the news matched some of the concerns that were actually in the jail itself. I want to make sure we clarify, as we have in the past, that jails are not prisons. They are very different. When someone is arrested and booked into the jail, those crimes, they are actually innocent until proven guilty by our system of government. The Georgia Senate was listening to constituents, to people that were involved directly and indirectly with that. And we wanted to take a heads-on approach in investigating and solving this major concern. As a Fulton County resident myself, I've had the honor to serve for the past 14 years, and I shared the concerns of my fellow citizens, elected leaders, and we wanted to have something done as quick as possible. With that, I assigned a public safety subcommittee to complete a deep dive investigation into the issues, root causes, and most importantly, the solutions. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who supported us and appointed 2 ex officio members of the committee to complete this very important task. And I want to take a moment to talk about these committee members and why they were so important. First, Senator Tim Bearden, who served on the committee, has a background as a law enforcement officer and was also the director of the Georgia and was gracious enough. Sheriff in the state of Georgia can control the population of his or her jail. That is exclusively from moving through the process of the judiciary and prosecution. I'm proud of the comprehensive 17 recommendations that you have in front of you right now to continue the improvement and ultimately to solve this issue permanently. But one of the recommendations, which I believe is perhaps the most important, is the relationship, the professionalism, and teamwork between the 4 areas that will ultimately solve this problem which is the county commission, the district attorney, the judges, and the sheriff. Working together in concert, in teamwork, with a professional front, will be the first step into solving any problem, no matter be in government or anywhere else.
Boy, he's got this
At this
thing
time,
worded
I'm going
out.
to turn this
Why-
over
why
to
are you
Senator
doing that
Robertson, who will
anyway?
give you an update
Yeah.
of the findings that you see before you. When we're done, we'll take a few questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
That aggravates me so
Thank you,
much.
Chairman Alvers, and I'm going to be very brief. You each have a copy of the draft report in front of you, and we're more than prepared to answer any questions that you may have in relation to the 17 recommendations. As Chairman Alvers said, he and I had the opportunity to tour the Fulton County Jail, and I want to start off by thanking the sheriff and his staff for being very accommodating. There was not a
Yeah, they
single
had to
door
be.
that we were not allowed to walk through. We walked into some of the nicest parts of the Fulton County Jail. And if you've never been in a jail, take my word for
course.
it, there are nice parts. And we walked through some of the parts that were the not quite as nice. We walked amongst the individuals there charged with lesser nonviolent crimes, and we walked amongst those who were charged with the most violent crimes. And the fear of a jail should not exist,
Yes, it should.
because what it holds are other citizens of our community. And what we found is we walked through
That's
the
the
jail, no matter
problem.
who we engaged with, no matter what they were charged with, or no matter what the job assignment was of those personnel of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, we received full cooperation while we were there.
Jeez.
I had somebody ask me what the jail looked like. I worked in a large jail. I guess it depends on what your definition of pretty is. But when we walked through the
Did they have flowers on the wall? Sunsets painted?
Who cares? That's
Exactly.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Other words.
The
If people
pretty
don't,
parts of the jail. It's jail.
it's not supposed to be pretty. It
Oh
is supposed to
my
look
God.
bleak. Your outlook is supposed to look very bleak while you're there.
The
If you
whole
want to
point-
know what a jail, if you want to know what the inside of a jail looks like, people, all you have to do is go to your local public school.
Yeah.
If you want to know what the inside of a jail looks like, just go to your local public school. That's what the outside looks like. That's what the inside looks like.
It's the same damn thing.
Except there's bars on the windows.
The whole
That's
point
it.
of jail is you don't want to go there.
Yes.
That's the whole point. It's not club fed. It's,
No.
You don't want to go to county.
No. Especially Fulton County. You do not
Oh,
want to be in Fulton
God.
County Jail. I've never been to Fulton County Jail, but I've known a few people that have been to Fulton County Jail, and they're like, that is not a place you want to be.
No.
You're going to do everything you can to avoid going to jail. Inmate pictures on the wall. Yeah. Well, no, they have little stars next to their name, little lick'em stick'em stars, you know? Like, he was a good boy today. He didn't stab anybody.
They're gonna paint rainbows on the wall, make it look like a damn kindergarten.
Paper mache,
Yeah.
you know? They have different toys in jail.
the jail, the Fulton County Jail, looked like a jail. It was very clean, but it was not attractive because they have to maintain that building with a full staff and full population of citizens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
That
And so
doesn't
while trying to
correlate.
maintain something, keeping something
Of course.
polished, keeping something clean with a small city operating within the walls is somewhat.
No, it's not. It's actually quite easy. If you want to keep it clean, then you assign people to clean it. Inmates.
Yeah.
It's really easy. And pay them.
Hey boy, you want out early? Get over here and clean this wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Bubba just pooped himself over there and he's slinging it on the wall, but if you go over there and clean it up, guess what? We might just cut you out of here a little bit early.
We'll shave a few days off your sentence.
difficult. But I do want to thank the sheriff and his team for cooperating. I want to thank the county commission.
did.
I want to thank the district
I
attorney's
wrote a
office.
song about
and
it.
I want to thank the Fulton County Judiciary for being responsive and coming to our committee, sitting in the chair and answering the questions. I think the importance of a study committee is to do what you're supposed to do that is in the title, and that is study. That is to look at. We're not there to drag any soul to the top of Golgotha and crucify them. We were to find out facts and determine what needed to be done or what could be done. The state legislature or to notify the county commission, the judiciary, the sheriff, or the district attorney's office, things that we realized based on testimony that were either successes or failures within the Fulton County Jail.
Everything.
And at the age of 22, I started in law enforcement, and in the sheriff's
care.
office I started out in, or that I did my entire 30
Don't
years.
care.
I saw some of the most tragic things I'd ever is a county
Nobody
jail.
cares about
Is a
your
county
resume
jail.
building.
We have them throughout the state of Georgia. And as unique as Atlanta and Fulton County likes to think it is, their county jail has the same issues that every county jail in the state of Georgia has. And the primary issue I think you'll see in the recommendations is the dysfunction that exists between county agencies.
You
The same
think?
dysfunction at times that exists between state agencies.
Yep.
When individuals forget who the boss is. And the boss is the man and woman in the car today driving around Atlanta, driving from home to work,
Oh,
who pay
Jesus.
taxes, their case adjudicated. And for that to work properly, the sheriff has to get along with the county commission, who has to get along with the judiciary, who has to get along with the district attorney. And each one of those individuals must do their job.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so tell us what does it look like? Oh, we're making recommendations. You read the recommendations because they do not want to have this on record of them talking about how atrocious it is, how
Yeah.
abysmal it is. Now, and yes, they're not supposed to look good. Fulton County is one of the worst places. Fulton County is worse. Like, there's been people that are like, I would rather go to prison than spend a single night in Fulton County Jail.
Well,
There are people that will say, please take me to prison, lock me the hell up. I do not want to spend even one night in Fulton County Jail.
and here's a little tip for things like this. Whenever all they do is release the recommendations, think about what led up to them making those recommendations. That's what your problems are.
Exactly. Yeah, because it was brought forth in the news how bad it was.
Yeah.
The way they are required to do their job, the way the law says they must do their job. And it is no longer an argument that I am a constitutional officer as to why things aren't done. We have full cooperation from every agency involved, but what we found is that there are breakdowns in the system. When I'm talking about the system, I'm talking about in the judiciary, in the district attorney's office, primarily.
Well, that's because they have overloaded cases. Their caseload is extreme. Like the judges in Fulton County, if you ever get a chance, just go watch Judge McBurney. Watch how he handles these people coming through. Like we're talking about people that have been sitting there for 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, 200 days, 600 days, 900 days. These people have been sitting there waiting to get their getting put in front of a judge. And this backlog happened because of the COOF. And what didn't help things out, what did not help things out, is whenever they were started prosecuting Trump. Okay, whenever this started coming in there, when they started prosecuting Trump, someone hacked the filing system for Fulton County, which is Odyssey. Odyssey was hacked, and they shut down Odyssey. Okay. Odyssey is where all of the whenever I file something online, it gets entered into Odyssey. Whenever I go down to Fulton County Court, when I file something, I have it filed stamped right there in court. They enter that into Odyssey. They were locked out of Odyssey and couldn't get into it. Okay, which means they couldn't file everything properly, which means they couldn't assign it to judges properly. I think they just got it back up and running. I think it took almost a month for them to get that up and running. I mean, everything had to be hand delivered to the court for it to be filed stamped, then had to be taken straight to the judges' chambers because nothing could be filed in their system. So their backlog backed up. Okay. During COOF, they locked down Fulton County. They locked it down. There was nobody coming in at all. There was no staff. They did the same thing in Clayton County. They did the same thing in DeKalb County. Almost every single county in the state of Georgia locked everything down. All the judges started doing remote work. And it took forever to even get that happening. the amount of quick resolutions they try to get passed just so these could get in front of judges. If you owned a house and you were trying to evict somebody, you'd be lucky right now if you're just now getting those people out. This is how bad it was. Fulton County got messed up bad.
The sheriff's responsibility, and I'm not going to lessen the power nor responsibility of a sheriff's office, but the sheriff's responsibility is to operate in a building that he or she does not own.
That's better.
And taking care of an at-risk population that has shown in the past, the vast majority, that they have no respect for the rules and no respect for other individuals' properties. And he is to do that based on the rules laid out by the Georgia Constitution and the United States Constitution. And if he is not provided or she is not provided with the proper funding or equipment, then he or she cannot do their job. The Fulton County Commission, as every other county commission's job, is to fund a county jail and to provide the necessary resources needed to maintain it up to a constitutional level. For the Fulton County Commission and any other county commission in the state of Georgia to do that, they must have a working relationship and full cooperation, and they must be allowed to keep their eyes on every tax penny that goes into that jail each and every day. And what we have discovered in Fulton County, it doesn't always work that way. The sheriff, the county commission, the district attorney, and the judges must work together. In the courts, we have found that the Fulton County court system, based on the testimony we heard, is not working at 100%. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable primarily because of the individuals being held in the Fulton County jails' rights to due process and rights to a system that does not allow them to languish in a county jail. The judiciary must take responsibility for it, and they must correct it. And what we've discovered in the district attorney's office is dysfunction to where cases are being moved entirely too slow. There are no efforts that we saw being made to expedite beyond the normal process.
Those are too busy trying to try Trump.
When a man or woman is arrested and placed into a county jail, even if they postpone and get out or stay in the county jail, they have a right to a due process system that does not cause them any harm outside of the requirements of the Georgia Constitution and the United States Constitution. So to sum it up, there's plenty of blame to go around. When we first walked into this, it seemed like all the focus was in one direction. I hope as you read through this report, and I hope if you have any questions, that we'll be able to show you that that was not the only place that needed to be looked at when it comes to the Fulton County Jail. And some of the things that some individuals felt was the most important thing going on in the Fulton County Jail happen on every street, every block, and in many of the homes here in Fulton County and around the state of Georgia every day. The Fulton County Jail just happens to be a place where it's all bottled up, and it seems to get more attention than those other places. And I would personally like to see the attention spread out equally everywhere to take a look at, so that we as a community and we as a General Assembly can solve some of these problems. And again, I can't thank Chairman Albers enough for the confidence he placed in me, Lieutenant Governor Burke Jones for the confidence he placed in this subcommittee. And I look forward to answering any questions you have today. And we look forward to the next challenge, which will start at 9 o'clock this morning. So thank you.
Do you think that the county should build a new jail or fix what we have?
I think that is up to the sheriff and the county commissioners to do their homework and to work with what they believe is the right answer and what the taxpayers expect of them.
And in fact, if I could add, I think it has to be based on data. It has to be based on facts. The subject matter expert in the room today is the Fulton County Sheriff, where he can tell you how many individuals in his jail are there and are suffering from particular issues, whether it's mental health issues and other things, and to determine if a reformed county jail as it exists, a Rice Street, if they're able to build to accommodate for that population. But if they're not able to build to accommodate for that, then I think probably the option would be a brand new facility to accommodate.
Let me add one more thing to that before we take the next question. You will see in this report that we're calling on the city of Atlanta to immediately turn over the entire Atlanta Detention Center to the county. Fulton County taxpayers paid for that facility and building. Anyone to think that that's going to become a community center one day, I think is seriously on a wrong track right now. It was designed and built to be a jail, and having a newer building and facility that can be leveraged to the fullest extent, not just partially as today, is certainly part of the right answer. And I'm confident that my friends down at City Hall will do the right thing. Yes, sir.
Do you foresee any general or local laws that you're going to try to pass in the next session based off this report, and what might those be?
As we continue to move forward, including a new study committee that's going to start here just in a short amount of time, I believe we're going to take the aggregate of all that information and then determine what needs to be done from a state level. Most of the things that you will see in this report are operational things that can be done by folks working together and getting things done as we would normally run a business. But at this time, I think it's a bit too early to tell of how we're going to come out to the 2025 legislative session.
You mentioned 9 o'clock, the real work begins. What is the next step with all these recommendations are out?
Well, no, 9 o'clock is our next study committee on Georgia Department of Corrections, which walks hand in hand with our county jails, because Georgia Department of Corrections has a huge responsibility to help alleviate some of the overcrowding of some of the most dangerous once their cases are adjudicated. So, but the real work here in this report rests with some of the men and women in this room for them to look at this and to go ahead and look. The process has already started. We've already seen where some relationships have come to light, where individuals with the same mission in mind are starting to partner up and try to solve some of these problems. And
yeah, if you want the first problem you should solve, stop breaking the law, asshole. Stop breaking the law, and you don't have this problem.
Fulton County is blessed with some very strong and professional public safety individuals and some very dedicated and intelligent commission members. And I think these men and women are smart enough to be able to sit around a table and realize that their obligation is not to each other as much as it is to the population of Fulton County.
Yes, sir.
How do you square applauding a reduction in the jail population with the passage of SB 63, which would increase the jail population, increase the number of people who are going to be held?
How 63 increased the jail population?
Well, on the one hand, you're applauding a reduction in the jail population. On the other hand, the legislature has passed a bill that is going to increase.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what data you're using to say that 63 is going to increase jail population, because when 63 was written, a lot of the research that was found was discovered that it did not increase the jail population. What it actually did was decrease crime. But how you marry up the two, the reason there is a reduction right now, I would argue, is because the system has started getting more efficient. Because during the testimony in this committee, it became very apparent early on that there was dysfunction in the systems that were being driven by personalities and not by software or anything else. And people started actually focusing more, doing their jobs. And actually, they were doing this after 63's original legislation had already done what you're talking about. And what you're talking about is bail bond reform, correct? Yes, sir.
Yeah, bail bond reform. That's what 63 did.
What,
changed
explain that. What do you mean bail bond reform?
I'm not sure of all the details on it, but the way they had it set up before, would that people couldn't qualify for certain amounts of bail bond, like, it's like a percentage numbers or some crap like that. Basically,
usually 10%.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the problems that they were running into, was the way that people weren't able to get bail bonds. So they figured something out that was going to make it where it's going to be easier for people under less serious crimes to get their bail bonds taken care of. Say for example, you got a warrant out for your arrest for an unpaid speeding ticket.
Right.
Right. Instead of throwing you in Fulton County Jail for that, they might, take you down and process you and, do something different, or
and allow you to bond out. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. As compared to somebody that might be there for
unaliving someone. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So, where there's just like, you're not going to be able to bond out on this at all.
Yeah. You're not going to make bond.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, kids, remember, don't get in trouble on a Friday night, because the judge doesn't come in till Monday and sometimes Tuesday. So be aware of that.
Yeah. Just know that you do something on Friday night, you're there for the weekend.
So are y'all saying that you think that just decreasing the jail population is due to this study committee and the fact that you embarrass these people?
No, we certainly didn't say that, but I believe, like anything else, when you put a little sunshine on something, it tends to get people to look at things differently.
Yes, it does.
I think you've seen the courts working with weekend court and night courts and moving cases a lot faster than they have in the past. I think you've seen the same from the district attorney's office. This is never an intent to embarrass someone. The purpose of this was to get to the root cause of the problem. But as we stand here, there are 1,000 less people in the Fulton County Jail. And that is measurable, it is substantial, and it is worth reporting on.
We have time for one more question, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, we saw news earlier this week about contraband smuggling inside Fulton County Jail. Are you hopeful that these recommendations help prevent similar issues in the future?
Contraband in any jail or prison is an ongoing battle and challenge. That will never change. The issues we've had at the Fulton County Jail was built to be a single bunk facility, which very shortly became double bunked and then became overcrowded. In order to manage and maintain and hold security when something is already 2 and 2.5 times more the capacity was designed to do, makes the prevalence of weapons and other contraband certainly more capable than they would be in other areas. But this is a challenge we face throughout every jail, throughout every prison, and not just here in Georgia. It's happening across the nation. And by using new tools, new technology, better processes, we hope to continue to curb that as much as possible. As Senator Robertson mentioned, you have to remember that inside a jail and inside a prison are either someone who has been arrested and or now fully convicted of breaking the law. These are folks that do not follow the rules, then a lot of times have very violent tendencies. We need to do everything possible to keep, first and foremost, the people who are operating that jail safe, as well as everyone else who is inside it. I think we're going to wrap up at this point. Thank you all so much for coming today. We appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll be able to talk to a few folks after this press conference is over. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, Risa, you are 100% correct. That is one of the other functions of FNL. We are keeping people out of jail.
Yep. This is
what is this? She looks lost.
All right.
This is
good morning.
Jackson Hole.
Thank you. And welcome to the first day of sessions for the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. My name is Karen Dinan, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's sessions.
Let's see what the market does.
From Jeff, the topic for the symposium is reassessing the effectiveness
it's going up right now.
Of monetary policy. So it's a super important topic, particularly right now. And we've got some great papers lined up for this morning. We've got 2 papers, and we also have a panel lined up for that. But before we get to any of that, I am delighted
That's
to
not
say
good.
that we have Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell here to deliver opening remarks. So
The Dow
with
is
that,
barely
let me
up
welcome,
right now.
Jay
Just
Powell. Okay.
barely.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Go
Karen,
climbing,
and thanks to our host from the Kansas City Fed. It's great to be back here today. 4.5 years after COVID-19's arrival, the worst of the pandemic-related economic distortions are fading. Inflation has declined significantly.
Oh, it
The
hasn't.
labor market is no longer overheated, and conditions are now less tight than those that prevailed before the pandemic.
It's not good.
Supply constraints have normalized, and the balance of mandates has changed. Our objective has been to restore price stability while maintaining a strong labor market, avoiding the sharp increases in unemployment that
Stop that whole
characterized earlier
price stability
disinflationary
crap.
episodes
Yep.
when inflation expectations were less well anchored. While the task is not complete, we have made a good deal of progress toward that outcome.
No, you haven't.
Today, I will begin by addressing the current economic situation and the path ahead for monetary policy. I will then turn to a discussion of economic events since the pandemic arrived, exploring why inflation rose to levels not seen in a generation and why it has fallen so much while unemployment has remained.
Oh, just get on with
Is that
it.
true, Jack?
So let's begin with
You're a liar!
and the near-term outlook for policy. For much of the past 3 years, inflation ran well above our 2% goal, and labor market conditions were extremely tight.
And you made it worse,
The FOMC's primary focus has been on bringing down inflation and appropriate.
which they have not been able to do.
Prior to this episode, most Americans alive today had not experienced the pain of high inflation for a sustained period.
Liar.
Yeah, we
brought
have.
substantial hardship, especially for those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. High inflation triggered stress and a sense of unfairness that linger today. Our restrictive
Liar.
monetary policy helped restore balance between aggregate supply and demand,
Still
easing
going up.
inflationary pressures and ensuring that
is.
inflation expectations remained well anchored.
Just watch.
Inflation is now much closer to our objective, with prices having risen 2.5% over the past 12 months.
Yes.
After a pause earlier this year, progress toward our 2% objective has resumed. My confidence has grown that inflation is on a sustainable path back to 2%.
I don't care about your confidence. Show me
Turning to
results.
employment.
Yeah, this is not good. Just so you guys know, if inflation over the past 3 years has increased 2%, 2.5%, 2%, 2.5%, 2%, every 3 months they do one of these.
Well,
Every 3 months, it's increased 2% for the past 3.5 years.
Let me put this in perspective for our F&L folks that are here. This is called lube.
Yeah, because they're about to shove it in really hard.
In the years just prior to the pandemic, we saw the significant benefits to society that can come from a long period of strong labor market conditions. Low unemployment, high participation, historically low racial employment gaps, and with inflation low and stable, healthy real wage gains that were increasingly concentrated among those with lower incomes.
Prior
Today,
to the
the labor
pandemic.
market has cooled considerably from its formerly overheated state. The unemployment rate began to rise over a year ago and is now at 4.3%. Still low by historical standards, but almost a full
Jesus.
point above its level in early 2023. Most of that
Worst.
increase has come over the past 6 months. So far, rising unemployment has not been the result of elevated layoffs, as is typically the case in an economic downturn. Rather, the increase mainly reflects a substantial increase in the supply of workers and a slowdown from the previously frantic pace of hiring. Even so,
So unemployment has increased. That's exactly what he just said.
Yeah. It's not the result of people being unemployed. It's the result of we've hired so many people. Yeah, sure.
No. No.
That's not how it works.
labor market conditions is
No.
unmistakable. Job gains remain solid, but have slowed this year. Job vacancies have fallen, and the ratio of vacancies to unemployment has returned to its pre-pandemic range. The hiring and quits rates are now below the levels that prevailed in 2018 and 19.
That's not
Nominal
true.
Wage gains have moderated, and all told, labor market conditions are now less tight than just before the pandemic in 2019, a year when inflation ran below 2%. It seems unlikely that the labor market will be a source of elevated inflationary pressures anytime soon. We do not seek or welcome further cooling in labor market conditions. Overall, the economy continues to grow at a solid pace, but the inflation and labor market data show an evolving situation. The upside risks to inflation have diminished, and the downside risks to employment have increased. As we highlighted in our last FOMC statement, we are attentive to the risks to both sides of our dual mandate. The time has come for policy to adjust. The direction of travel is clear, and the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We will do everything we can to support a strong labor market as we make further progress toward price stability. With an appropriate dialing back of policy restraint, there is good reason to think that the economy will get back to 2% inflation while maintaining a strong labor market. The current level of our policy rate gives us ample room to respond to any risks we may face, including the risk of unwelcome further weakening in labor market conditions.
So they're not changing the rates.
So let's now turn to the questions of why inflation rose and why it has fallen so significantly, even as unemployment has remained low. There's a growing body of research on these questions, including Gabby Eggerson's work, which we'll shortly discuss. And this is a good time for this discussion. It is, of course, too soon to make definitive assessments. This period will be analyzed and debated long after we are all gone.
Yep, I'm watching it. It's
the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic led
things are turning
in economies around the world. It was a time of radical uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
Severe downside risks. As so often happens in times of crisis, Americans adapted and innovated. Governments responded with extraordinary force, especially in the United States. Congress unanimously passed the CARES Act. At
52,
the Fed, we used
53,
our powers to
57.
an unprecedented extent to stabilize
It's increasing.
the financial system and
NASDAQ is up 1.35.
After a historically deep but
I'm watching the Dow Jones, and it's
mid-2020,
stayed pretty
the economy began to
steady.
grow again.
Mm-hmm.
And as the risks of a severe extended downturn receded, and as the economy reopened, we faced the risk of replaying the painfully slow recovery that followed the
Yes,
global financial
absolutely,
crisis.
Tracy. They're completely
Congress
manipulated.
delivered substantial additional fiscal support in late 2020 and again in early 2021. Spending recovered strongly in the first half of 2021, and the ongoing pandemic shaped the pattern of the recovery.
Yeah, because you let people out of their houses.
Weighed on spending on in-person services, but pent-up demand, stimulative policies, pandemic changes in work and leisure practices, and the additional savings associated with constrained services spending all contributed to a historic surge in consumer spending on goods. The pandemic also wreaked havoc on supply conditions. 8 million people left the workforce at its onset, and the size of the labor force was 4
No,
million,
that is wrong. They did not leave. They were
in early 2021.
They were forced out.
They were forced out. Whenever you shut down and lock down states, and mom and pop shops couldn't keep their businesses open, whenever the only places that would stay open were the big businesses like Walmart, Publix, Kroger, the big box stores, the big box grocery stores were the only ones that were allowed to stay open, because mom and pop little fruit stand down the road had to shut down. They had to fire those 3 people. Those 3 people couldn't get hired anywhere else. And whenever you have that on the bars, the restaurants, whenever these places get shut down, they can't rehire anywhere else.
Because you're still accruing expenses while you can't have your shop open. I mean, it doesn't matter if you've got your daily overhead shut down because you're not running lights, you're not running electricity, so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, you still have bills you have to pay. You have no income coming in. And generally with a lot of bars and restaurants, I mean, that's what they do. That's their skill set. So if they're not open, then those people have their own bills coming in. So they're forced to either live on unemployment or they're having to go work at some other low wage job or take out a loan. And here's the other thing. With a lot of your manufacturing jobs, you had places where, well, if you're going to come back to work here, you got to get the jab.
Yep.
And there were quite a few people who are like, no, I'm not going to be forced into this. This should be, the choice I want to make. So you lost a lot of the labor market.
My choice went away.
You had a lot of the labor market doing that. You had a lot of the federal jobs. They were saying, well, you're going to have to do this, this, and this. Not so much the state jobs, because that was a state by state basis.
Mm-hmm.
But with the federal jobs, they were saying, yep, you've got to get the job. you got to get the jab or you're not going to have a federal job anymore.
Yep.
So annoying.
The labor force would not return to its pre-pandemic trend until mid-2023. Supply chains were snarled by a combination of lost workers, disrupted international trade linkages, and tectonic shifts in the composition and level of demand. Clearly, this was nothing like the slow recovery after the global financial crisis.
So tell me, do you guys remember what the cost of lumber was during the pandemic?
Oh yeah. I know
And
how much
it
it's
hasn't
gone up.
recovered. It hasn't recovered. It's gone down since then. I mean, it was, I think, up 500 and some odd plus, or up to 1,000% of what it was pre.
Yeah. You want to know why the housing prices have gone up? Because you've had people moving into areas, which has, of course, shot up the value of the homes. But building new homes, even these little cookie cutter crappy subdivisions, the price of all the materials went way up. So, of course, the price of the houses went up.
Exactly.
Enter inflation. After running below target through 2020, inflation spiked in March and April 2021. The initial burst of inflation was concentrated rather than broad-based, with extremely large price increases for goods in short supply, such as motor vehicles. My colleagues and I judged at the outset that these pandemic...
Oh, why was that? Why was the price of vehicles going up? Like they were up like 100% over sticker price. And that had to do with chips not coming into the United States.
Exactly right.
Chips not being produced in the United States because they shut all of the manufacturing down in the United States, and you could build a company cheaper going out of country. And they stopped supply.
Yeah. And consequently, can't talk today. If you're not able to get a new vehicle, what are you going to do? You're going to get a used vehicle. So the prices on all the used vehicles went way up.
Related factors would not be persistent, and thus that the sudden rise in inflation was likely to pass through fairly quickly without the need for a monetary policy response.
Not true.
That the inflation would be transitory.
Not true.
Standard thinking has long been that as long as inflation expectations remain.
Nobody thought that.
It can be appropriate.
Nobody did.
To look through a temporary rise in inflation.
Everybody was telling you need to adjust this now, and they refused to do it because it was an election year.
Yes.
They refused to do it because it basically was going to make Trump look really bad. That's why they didn't do it. That's why they didn't change those rates.
The good ship transitory was a crowded one. With most mainstream analysts and advanced economy central bankers on board, I think I see some former shipmates out there today. The common expectation was that supply conditions would improve reasonably quickly, that the rapid recovery in demand would run its course, and that demand would rotate back from goods to services, bringing inflation down.
Not true.
Over time, the data were consistent with the transitory hypothesis. Monthly readings for core inflation declined every month from April through September 2021, although progress came slower than expected. The case began to weaken around mid-year, as was reflected in our communications. And beginning in October, the data turned hard against the transitory hypothesis.
Well, and that had a lot to do with Biden and his policies that he put in place about workers' wages and all of that. That right there is what made it even worse, because they didn't calculate into their model these kinds of things that Biden was going to do. Or should I say Biden-Harris did. There you go.
Yes.
Inflation rose and broadened out from goods to services, and it became clear that high inflation was not transitory and that it would require a strong response if inflation expectations...
Everyone told you this. Everyone.
Pivoted beginning in November. Financial conditions began to tighten, and after phasing out our asset purchases, we lifted off in March of 2022. By early 2022, headline inflation exceeded 6% and core was above 5%. New supply shocks appeared. Russia's invasion of Ukraine led to a sharp increase in energy and commodity prices. The improvements in supply conditions...
and also...
why did that affect it?
Because they shut down Nord Stream going into the EU. They came in, they destroyed Nord Stream 2. So Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 both got shut down. And then we also shut down the drilling of oil in the United States.
Bingo.
And they shifted to clean energy. They shifted to what they called clean energy. They shut down coal plants. So coal was in demand. They shut down oil plants. Oil was in demand. And they started shipping it from other countries, which takes a long time to get here and costs a lot of money to get here to the United States whenever they could have produced it right here in the United States.
Right. When you're producing your own energy here at home, it doesn't matter what happens in the world.
Exactly.
It's not affected.
But on day one, Biden Harris shut down the oil fields, locked them up.
Yep.
Shut down the oil supply. And that didn't just affect the US, that also affected Canada.
Yep.
And Mexico.
And the rotation in demand from goods to services were taking much longer than expected, in part due to further COVID waves in the United States. And COVID continued to disrupt production globally, including through new and extended lockdowns in China.
It did not.
High rates of inflation were a global phenomenon, reflecting common experiences: rapid increases in the demand for goods, strained supply chains, tight labor markets, and sharp hikes in commodity prices.
Also, if people don't remember this, they stopped all shipping coming into California. There were ships sitting off the coast of California ready to deliver goods, and California wouldn't allow the goods in. I guess we forget about that, where they actually started rerouting them to come into the other side of the East Coast. Like Savannah got really busy. Savannah got really damn busy.
Yeah.
Miami got really busy because
Baltimore.
they rerouted them.
The global nature of inflation was unlike any period since the 1970s. Back then, high inflation became entrenched, an outcome we were utterly committed to avoiding. By mid-2022, the labor market was extremely tight, with employment increasing by 6.5 million jobs from the middle of 2021. This increase in labor demand was met in part by workers rejoining the labor force as health concerns began to fade, but labor supply remained constrained. And in the summer of 2022, labor force participation remained well below pre-pandemic levels.
Well, that right there was because you shut it down. You told them they weren't, you created this issue. Your policies created these issues, and you were told multiple times that you need to adjust for this. Everybody was screaming for it. Adjust the Fed rate. You need to do this now. And they didn't. Until it was too late. Did everything we could. Lie.
There were nearly twice as many job openings as unemployed persons from March 2022 through the end of the year.
Doesn't mean shit.
Labor shortage, and inflation peaked at 7.1% in June 2022. At this podium 2 years ago, I discussed the possibility that addressing inflation could bring some pain in the form of higher unemployment and slower growth. Some argued that getting inflation under control would require a recession and a lengthy period of high unemployment. And
it's not under control.
It's still not under control.
Until the job is done. The FOMC did not flinch from carrying out our responsibilities, and our actions forcefully demonstrated our commitment to restoring price stability. We raised our policy rate by 425 basis points in 2022.
So the interest rate was in 2022 was 7.1. What do you think the interest rate is right now? It's not even dropped a full percent.
No.
So it's still high. It's not as high as it was, but it's still way too damn high. It's gone from 2%, 2% pre-pandemic, 2% to 7.1% and down to what? I think it's 6.9, something like that percent.
Yeah.
Not good.
And another 100 basis points in 2023. We've held our policy rate at its current restrictive level since July 2023. The summer of 2022 proved to be the peak of inflation. The 4.5 percentage point decline in inflation from its peak 2 years ago has occurred.
No, what was the peak for that time as to where we are now? But that doesn't mean after the next election that doesn't increase again.
Exactly.
Unless you make some policy changes. The federal government needs to make some policy changes and stop printing money. They're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine for no good. No good.
In a context of low unemployment.
Good morning, Gunner's Pub.
An historically unusual result. So, how did inflation fall without a sharp rise in unemployment above its estimated natural rate? Pandemic-related distortions to supply and demand, as well as severe shocks to energy and commodity markets, were important drivers of high inflation. And there were the story of its decline. The unwinding of these factors took much longer than expected, but ultimately played a large role in the subsequent disinflation. Our restrictive monetary policy contributed to a moderation in aggregate demand, which combined with improvements in aggregate supply to reduce inflation.
And they said there was no recession. They said the inflation was not out of hand. Inflation is fine. We're doing just fine. Nothing to see here. That's what they kept preaching throughout the whole thing, the whole time of Biden's Biden Harris's presidency, and it's not better. 6.9 is not better.
Pressures, while allowing growth to continue at a healthy pace. Labor demand also moderated. The historically high level of vacancies relative to unemployment has normalized primarily through a decline in vacancies, without sizable and disruptive layoffs, bringing the labor market to a state where it is no longer a source of inflationary pressures. A word on the critical importance of inflation expectations. Standard economic models have long reflected the view that inflation will return to its objective when product and labor markets are balanced, without the need for economic slack, so long as inflation expectations are anchored at our objective.
But you haven't done that.
Their best rate of inflation was Trump's worst.
By a persistent burst of high inflation. It was far from assured that the inflation anchor would hold. Concerns
There
over
it goes.
contributed to the view that this inflation would require slack in the economy and specifically in the labor market. An important takeaway from recent experience is that anchored inflation expectations, reinforced by vigorous central bank actions, can facilitate disinflation without the need.
No, it can't.
This narrative attributes much of the increase in inflation to an extraordinary collision between overheated and temporarily distorted demand and constrained supply. While researchers differ in their approaches and to some extent in their conclusions, a consensus seems to be emerging, which I see as attributing most of the rise in inflation to this collision. All told, the healing from pandemic distortions, our efforts to moderate aggregate demand, and the anchoring of expectations have worked. Liar! Increasingly appears to be a sustainable path to our 2% objective. Disinflation while preserving labor market strength is only possible with anchored inflation expectations, which reflect.
You told some of the biggest lies that I've ever heard of in my whole life.
And reinforced by our actions.
How'd you get Kaiser to do that for you?
That's the savage.
So
I know.
The pandemic economy has proved to be unlike any other, and that there remains much to be learned from this extraordinary period. Our statement on longer run goals and monetary policy strategy emphasizes our commitment to reviewing our principles and making appropriate adjustments through a thorough public review every 5 years. As we begin this process later this year, we will be open to criticism and new ideas while preserving the strengths of our framework. The limits of our knowledge, so clearly evident during the pandemic, demand humility and a questioning spirit focused on learning lessons from the past
just stupid.
and applying them flexibly to our current challenges.
Ignorance is not an excuse.
All they had to do was say, we're not changing anything.
Exactly.
It took them over 20 minutes to get to that point.
And nothing is changed.
Nope.
Nothing's getting any better. So, yeah, your husband, you lowered rent to help them. Interest rate projected to increase to 8.9 by November. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is not good.
Yeah, I hope y'all enjoy things the way they are, because they're going to continue.
Yes. Well, this is the elections have results, beautiful results. There is Janet Yellen. Did that guy replace her? No, Janet Yellen is just part of the problem.
Yeah.
She's going over to I think it was China, Taiwan, something like that to try to work out some deals there. Yeah, Janet Yellen is not the Fed chair. That's Jerome Powell. She's just bad. Really bad. Crooked freaking people. Yeah. Camel Toe is going to make it better. She said so.
She could do that now.
She's had 3.5 years to do it. Still hasn't done it. Still has not done it.
She has the power to do that now. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that Democrats don't realize. If she enacted some of these policies that she says she's going to, if she went ahead and put that into place now, she'd win.
Yep.
But she doesn't, because she knows it's crap and she's never going to do it.
Exactly. The plan is to not do it. Her only plan is to get elected.
Right.
Because it's more important about the race and the gender of the next president.
Well, it's about this. it's about the image of hope. It's about creating this bright, glowy future in your head. Meanwhile, you're paying 30% more at the grocery store, if not more in some cases.
Hmm.
You know, you could solidly win the election if you impose those things you're talking about now. But the fact of the matter is, it's never going to happen.
No,
None of that stuff is ever going to be put into place. You're going to see the same old crap that you've seen for the past 3.5 years, if not become more communist.
Yeah, it is working on getting worse. If you have any idea, all you have to do is look at this right here. Gasoline is up 51%, 32% for electricity, airfare 23%, groceries 22%.
And that's a BS statistic, by the way. It's more than 22%.
Yes, it is. Rent 22%, eggs 47%, car insurance 54%, K through 12 66%. And these are old statistics. It's just gotten worse. It's just gotten worse.
You know how Bill Clinton won his first term? James Carville, who is even though I don't agree with his politics, is a brilliant political strategist.
Yes, he is.
His whole strategy for Clinton was, it's the economy, stupid. That was the tagline. It's the economy, stupid.
Yep.
That will win or lose an election every time if you focus on it.
Yep. Because that right there, the economy is what drives production. The economy is what drives what people can afford to purchase. It drives whether they have work or not, or even able to get a job.
Yeah,
or a career.
In your day-to-day life, you look at the things that directly affect you. You know, there's a lot of political ideologies on both sides that will never really affect you in your life.
Exactly.
But what does affect you, whether or not I can pay my bills, that affects everybody. I don't care how rich, how poor, that affects everybody.
Yep.
And right now we're in the crapper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of a crapper, I think it's time for me to chat, you guys are awesome. Toilet paper was $5.49 for a case. Sweetheart, a bag of chips you can't get under $5.
No, and used to you could buy it for I was telling Diva this the other day. I used to buy this brand of tortilla chips, and they advertised it as being $1.99 a bag. I mean, like a full bag of tortilla chips. Now they advertise it as $2.99 a bag. So that's a 50% increase.
Yep.
Over the course of 4 years.
Gotta go poop. So we gotta go. Well, you gotta go. No, I don't have to poop. I just said it's like been 3.5 hours that I'm doing this.
He's working overtime today. He's got bills to pay too.
Yeah. My thing is I'm building something for the wife, so I'm pretty sure that she's going to be knocking on my door going,
you got to work yet, you lazy SOB?
You lazy SOB. But you guys make sure that you come by tonight for the one and only Friday Night Live over on the Expert.
Be sure and check out FNL tonight, because tonight will be Caitlin's last show.
Yep. Yeah, Caitlin's last show before you have Baby Wiggles.
Yep. Little Wiggles is on its way. Tonight will be her last show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I might be running late to getting there because I've got something I've got to do with the wife tonight. An event.
I bet you do.
Oh yeah. No, there's an event going on that I've got to partake in. So I might be running late. Hopefully I'm here, at a decent time. I don't think I'll be running late, and I'll probably be pretty sober still. So
well, enjoy your Communist Party meeting.
No, it's not. It actually isn't. It's supposed to be really nice. You get to enjoy some good Southern food. That's going to be a plus. Oh, but everybody, make sure you come by FNL tonight, because as Volstrom said, it is Caitlin's last night. It's going to be an event. It's going to be good. All right, you guys. We'll see you on the flip side.
Peace.
Peace.
Now I gotta call somebody to come get me because my car turned into a spaceship and I don't know how to fly it. I'm not an astronaut.